You're not, Vinny.
Oh, don't ruin it. Hi, welcome. Sorry to disappoint you. I know there's tens of people tuning out now, but welcome to the Unusual Suspects. I am your fill-in host for today, and there's a lot of me to fill in with. Rob Gardula, welcome to the Unusual Suspects. Joining me, my usual Unusual Suspects. We have Connor, we have Brandon, we have Humberto, we have Viva Frei. Viva Frei.
Viva Frei.
I apologize for the
worry.
unprofessional nature of today's broadcast so far, but welcome. If you have not done so already, Jeremy, let's get that up. Like and subscribe. Boom and boom right there. Join. How many episodes in, Humberto? Is this episode 99?
99. We're going to have a huge episode for next week. Episode 100.
Episode 100. And how many subscribers are we at currently?
Subscribers currently
77.8 thousand. The last
put me
time
on
I
the spot
checked,
right here.
Wow, look at that. Viva is actually.
Wow, this isn't even his channel.
78,000. We're trying to make it to 100,000 before the end of the year. So please subscribe.
Yeah. So again, back to Jeremy. Jeremy, show it. Like and subscribe. Make sure you join us so that way you're notified every Wednesday and Friday. We're live 6 p.m. right here on the Unusual Suspects channel. Lots to get to today. We're going to get into RFK being named the Secretary of
Health and Human Services.
Yes. We also, who is currently right now, it's not Rachel Levin. That's not her position.
No.
It's actually
Becerra.
Yes, Xavier Becerra. We'll get into that, Connor. What are you going to be talking about today?
Wait for it. Wait for it. Aliens.
Okay, aliens. Connor will be talking the kind from outer space or the kind from out of town?
The good ones.
Okay, the ones from outer space then. Okay, Brandon, what are you going to be covering today?
Unhinged liberal teachers. One specifically went crazy after Trump won and got fired. And
What state was this?
Connecticut, my home state.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, Humberto, what do you have on deck for us today?
There was a meeting at Mar-A-Lago. You had Sylvester Stallone, Javier Milei, Donald Trump. So the T count of the country just went up.
I was very excited when we were at Mar-a-Lago for the Man That You Didn't Know movie screening. I got so excited. Frank Stallone. Sylvester Stallone's brother was there, and our booker, Tony, I was like, Tony, you got to get a picture of me with Frank Stallone. And he's like, why do you give a shit? And crap. And I'm like, because he's Sylvester Stallone's brother. And he goes, yeah, it's not Sylvester Stallone. And now we know that Sylvester Stallone was at Mar-a-Lago, which means he's MAGA.
In the same room we're at.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll get into
Can
that.
you imagine, like, you have the brothers, the Stallone brothers, and then you got the Baldwin brothers. You got Billy and Alec versus Frank and the other Stallone brother. I just forgot his name.
You forgot. So you remembered Frank and you forgot Sylvester?
No. Sylvester. Oh, Frank is the brother. No,
Frank is the famous brother.
Well,
Sylvester is
look,
the action
I
star.
blew the joke. The bottom line is you got your good brothers in politics, and you got your idiot brothers in politics. I am talking today about the news that broke yesterday. The Onion was allegedly being rumored, in fact, confirmed that they bought Infowars out of bankruptcy. Not so fast, not the Onion.
So the satirical website that hasn't been popular for the last decade, because Babylon B is the satirical website today. That's where people go for fake funny news. The Onion at one point was huge, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, but they haven't done anything.
What was the downfall of it?
I think they officially got to the point where they were specifically and deliberately not making fun of specific people because of the political nature of it. So it became basically an intelligence operation for the Democrats. My personal theory, but the bottom line is the guy put, whoever his name is, Tetrahedra or Trader, the guy who owns it, put out some piece yesterday as to why they bought it. Doesn't look like they bought it so fast, and the shit's going to hit the fan next week.
Awesome. Very excited to talk about that. But let's jump in first to the appointments that Trump has been making. Yesterday, the breaking news, two big ones. The first was Matt Gaetz, which I'd like to go around and get everybody's opinion on before we go forward, because there's all of these allegations of Matt Gaetz being involved in a sexual tryst with a 17-year-old girl.
Nice word.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to say like some kind of sex predator. I don't know what, because to be honest, I don't know enough about the case, but I figured you four are pretty well read. Does anybody here know about the allegations that Matt Gaetz is facing, the information behind it, who's behind it, any of that?
Yeah, what I know, what I've observed so far is that anytime it comes up, it's like on the heels of him making noise about something. So I've been suspicious about the legitimacy of it from the beginning, because you would think that if there was something serious of it, like anything of weight, that it would be a big deal and that it would be pushed forward, but it really kind of just pops up anytime that he becomes an inconvenience. So I'm really excited about this pick because I think we're at war. We need somebody who's fully committed to Trump and somebody who's going to, go after who we need to go after and not hold back. Like Bill Barr last time was a disaster. He was more of a nuisance to Trump than an ally. So I love the pick.
Now, Kevin McCarthy said yesterday that it will not pass and the vote will get overturned. Do you guys believe that Kevin McCarthy is right, or do you believe that that's Kevin McCarthy continuing his...
Rob,
I think he's wrong because did you hear what John Thune said yesterday, or is it John Thune? Thune's the last name. So he was on Fox News and he said that they're gonna they could do the recess appointments where they aren't even in session. So he's on board with that, and they're gonna do whatever they need to do if the Democrats become inconvenient with it. So it sounds like he's fully on board, MAGA all the way.
And besides, Rob, you were in the vault on the PBD podcast when Kevin McCarthy said Matt Gaetz is a pedophile.
Yes, he said, "I don't hang out with pedophiles."
Yeah,
was the exact quote. And for me, it's like, okay, if you were, we go back to this. It's when Reid Hoffman was accused of being on the Epstein list by Elon Musk when he sat down with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson literally said that Reid Hoffman and Bill Gates were on the Jeffrey Epstein lists, which is why they were donating so much money to Kamala Harris to keep that information from going public. If somebody makes that outlandish claim about you, I would think that there'd be legal repercussions against you to do so. So Kevin McCarthy comes on PBD's podcast and says, "I don't hang out with pedophiles,"
but
when he's asked about Matt Gaetz.
Could you think of any reason why Kevin McCarthy in particular might be somewhat sour grapes?
Matt Gaetz got him kicked out of the Speaker
For
of the
the
House.
information that I have, this delegation from 2021 and the DOJ
Investigated and didn't pursue.
didn't pursue charges.
DOJ and
into
the House
23.
Ethics Probe.
And you have to understand that that's not Trump DOJ. That is the Biden-Harris administration Department of Justice, which we know likes to target their political opponents.
Yes.
So
First of all, I
it's a
say
wrap.
the choice was the greatest choice out there because A, it's making faces melt. I mean, you could have gone with someone who would have pissed people off anyhow, like a Paxton or a Bailey. To go with the Gaetz is a big fat middle finger. The allegations against him, they're years old. They were thoroughly investigated. I say it's the risk of being a single adult male in the dating verse is that bad things happen. Get married young, keep your schmeckle in your pants. Bottom line, but it was bull crap from the beginning, and then they investigated it. They did not pursue the charges because there were credibility issues. It arose the last time in 2021. I forget what was going on then. It was politically motivated back in the day. It arises now on the eve of him being appointed or named to be the next attorney general. It's just the same old weaponization over and over again. Now Trump has been victim of it. Gaetz has been victim of it, and put him behind that seat, and he will open up the doors and expose the skeleton.
So hold on, back to my question about the lawsuit. Okay, if you're to go out there and say that this guy's a pedophile, and I don't hang out with pedophiles, and then the assumption is that you're calling that person a pedophile, in order for there to be some type of actionable claim, there would have to be a show of damages, correct?
Yeah, no. Calling someone a pedophile would be defamation per se. I mean, you wouldn't have to show damages, I don't think, because you have to show some. But it's objective defamation on its face to call someone a pedophile.
So is it
especially in the absence of a conviction for pedophilia?
So is it that you're just going on this route, right? You're going from a congressman to now attorney general. Why even deal with the bullshit and go backwards and deal with that legally? It doesn't matter. Call me whatever you want. I'm going to be the attorney general in 60 days from now.
And it brings more attention to it too if you try to pursue defamation on it, right? Like, I mean, it's probably one of those things you don't want floating around in the news
And
that
the
that you're
DOJ
being
has
called
spoken.
that.
It's a wrap.
And now Gaetz will have the power to pursue the Epstein list, right? More so than anybody else in the world. Correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I believe so. That's he will be able to expose a lot of the weaponized aspects of the Biden administration. But no, as for suing for the it depends who called him a pedophilia, because public figure, you have to show actual malice. If it's a member of government, you might have some sort of immunity. So it's not worth pursuing it. It was dropped or not pursued 3 years ago. They just bring it up now to try to besmirch, but they're going to do that for anybody and everybody that Trump picks for one reason or another.
Well, and Trump made a bunch of picks this week. Marco Rubio is now Secretary of State. What do you guys think about that?
Well, we did a show yesterday with Brandon, and I have a hot take on this.
Yeah, it's a
right?
good point.
Everyone is mad about it because he's a little bit of the establishment Republicans, but him picking a Latino, Spanish-speaking Secretary of State is very important for the tone that the government is setting. Our biggest foreign policy problem is not in the Middle East, even though some people wanna make it a big deal. Our biggest problem is Mexico. All right. So this guy is up. Because I know, this guy is up to date with everything that's happening in Latin America. He's been very vocal about all the issues that are happening in Latin America. And we need someone to talk to the Mexican government. I mean, I brought it up last time. The Mexican president, that lady, she told the world that she wasn't going to recognize Trump as president until the last vote is counted. She's talking big. And she has a huge mess in Mexico. We're talking about cartel walls that never been at this level ever before. You have 2 full feature armies with training, with tanks, killing each other in Mexico. And the biggest killer of Americans right now is not terrorism, it's fentanyl. All right? We're talking about 200,000-ish a year Americans that die on American soil, plus all the rape, all the murder, all the crimes. So I think even though he's not my ideal pick, I think it says a message for the tone that we're going to fix the border internally and externally.
Why were people mad about the pick?
Because he's a loser, but I think the big...
Because remember when Trump called him Little Marco?
Yeah,
that was my favorite Little Marco.
The most important part about this, though, is who's being mentioned to be the new senator for Florida. Because think about senators, that's a sweet gig. You could be in a Senate spot for 30 years.
And that gets appointed by the governor, correct?
Yeah.
Until the next election.
Yeah, and they're talking about Laura Trump. So Laura Trump could be in that seat for 30 years now, or whenever, until she chooses to run.
Of course, they're
for something
also
bigger.
floating Hulk Hogan. So
Come on, brother.
Are you serious?
Okay, nobody is seriously floating Hulk Hogan. There is an online movement trying to get Hulk Hogan.
So nobody floats Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan floats you.
No, but then when you do things like that, it makes a mockery of the entire process. So even though it'd be funny,
our reality TV show host, President-elect, has kind of already set the tone for that a little bit.
yeah, but is he still reality television star, or is he
no,
former
he's a
president
serious
of the
person.
United
No, he's a
States?
serious person. There's no
So-
reason Hulkster couldn't step up into that.
One question
Laura
about-
Trump would be better.
One
but
question about Marco Rubio. See, something I read on the internet yesterday, but who knows if that's whatever. They said, could Governor DeSantis recommend Governor DeSantis for the or for the senator's position?
Good question.
Could he do that?
Because what's his move after being governor? Because, Rick Scott did it pretty smartly. He went from being governor to being senator. He could be in that seat for as long as he wants to now because there's no term limits on senators. So I don't know the answer to that, whether or not he could, but I think my bet would be Laura Trump gets it, and I think that was the biggest incentive to
I
put
think
Trump,
legally
to put, what's his name there?
I think
Put
legally
Rubio there.
DeSantis has to fill the seat within a certain time frame, so he can't just hold it open for himself 2 years later.
According to VTnews.ai, by the way, if you're not on VTnews.ai, show the lower third, Jeremy. Just kidding, we didn't have that ready. But if you're not on VTnews.ai, you can subscribe and use the AI chat platform. And it says right here, in the United States, a governor cannot appoint themselves as a U.S. senator due to potential conflicts of interest and legal or constitutional restrictions. Viva, you
Yeah,
were
I was going to say,
something.
I'll steel man it. And by the way, this cold coffee, or what is it called? Cold brew?
Yeah.
Is delicious. The steel man of why people don't like Rubio is that he's a deep state war whore. I mean, he was out there. The kids use the word shilling for the war in Russia. His exchange with Victoria Nuland was amazing. Whether or not people want to think it's like 4D chess, where he got Victoria Nuland to admit that there were biological weapons in Ukraine, but she says it was biological research facilities. But then he's like, going out and saying, so if there's an attack, it was 100% the Russians that did it, so we can go to war with Russia. That's why people don't like him. Bottom line, he's proven a loyalty to Trump, and if he's disloyal, they'll fire him after, if he gets appointed. Laura Trump will be the new senator, and Rubio will be out, and they'll find another one. So it's 4D level chess in all respects, but he's proven his loyalty in the last year, and I think that's what Trump is looking for now in his cabinet members.
So let's go to the big announcement from yesterday. Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. now going to be, oh, yeah, there it is. Look at that. That's America. That is the moment that I was like, all right, I'm all board on MAGA.
Yep.
It was after Trump had gotten shot. RFK shows up, and I went, oh, we're doing this. Because it showed that Trump was willing to reach across the aisle and bring on people that he had formerly criticized. He said he wouldn't debate RFK because he didn't consider him a real candidate. That's Trump doing his Trump speech. But that really, for me, was when he invited him out to the Turning Point USA Arizona event held by Charlie Kirk. That was a moment for me. I'm like, cool, because I was an RFK guy. I still am. Part of what I liked about RFK was the idea that he wants to make America healthy again. That's one of the main things that he was campaigning on. Well, yesterday, Donald Trump announced RFK Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do you guys like the pick?
Oh, yeah.
Pick's amazing. That's actually the only position I would really want RFK in, because his health positions are really the only thing I fully agreed with him on. Everything else, socially, economically, he had Democrat positions from 15 to 20 years ago.
I did not like some of his stances when it comes to transgenderism.
Yeah,
I can say that
and
when we
the
had him on the
environment.
podcast.
You and I,
A little flip floppy.
yeah.
we talked a lot about how he presented a lot of problems accurately and had no solutions. He would do these videos where he points out all the problems, but he can't really solve anything. Health issues like this,
He has a plan.
he can solve. He has a plan. He's been working on this for decades, and now he finally has the resources. So I think this was not only the best outcome for RFK, this was the best outcome for Trump.
This is
was
the best outcome for America.
Best person he could have put in this position.
This is one of my top 3 issues. I sent production the picture. Like, I put on 90 pounds eating exactly the same thing here, like exactly the same thing. Like, I'm a very low carb guy. I was keeping my weight, struggle, but I was keeping my weight since I've been here. They add so much sugar and shit to everything,
And it really does. It doesn't just affect. This is something I work out a lot, but I have a very, very bad diet. And I know that part of everything, Humberto, my mental state, how tired I am, my testosterone levels, all directly goes back to not how much I'm working out, how much I'm putting into my body. And I often, there are days where I feel like shit. And I'm like, why do I feel like shit? Well, I ate like crap for the weekend. So it doesn't just affect your actual physical body, but it also affects your mental state.
Well, actually, some colors that they add to drinks and everything, like I think it's red
Fruit Loops is illegal in
Red
Canada.
4 and a bunch of them. They make people with ADHD, especially kids, get even worse at in their concentration levels and energy levels. Like, it's actually poison. I can't believe this is the first one. I'm gonna tell you something. The other day I went to Vinny's house. We were having a few steaks. We don't drink, so he bought some Mexican Coke. I was like, Mexican Coke? What is this? He's like, oh, it's better Coke. I'm like, okay. We had a few Mexican Cokes. And I go like, why are you buying Mexican Coke? He's like, because it has real sugar. And I go like, the richest country in the freaking planet. All right. Look, near my parents' house, they bought a home here. They have a boat parade for Christmas. People have enough time and resources to decorate their boats for Christmas for half an hour. And we need to go to Mexico to get freaking Coke.
Hey, Bert,
so
hold up what you're drinking right there, by the way, so the camera can see.
Not just that. just wait for the remix where they take out the Mexican Coke and say how you were buying Mexican Coke and doing it with
But are
Vinny.
you kidding me? Are you kidding? The richest country to ever exist. We need to import Coke. Something like, you have the American flag, you have McDonald's, you have everything, you have Coke. Top five things are American. Coca-Cola is one of them.
Import it though. It's a concerted effort to make us unhealthy because the lobbyists have so much control over
But
these
it
things.
pisses me off.
It's
Why
it's
are we
a cycle.
corn syrup? Like,
Because to make us unhealthier.
Because the corn lobbyists control just about everything.
And then that makes us unhealthy, and that helps the hospitals and the whole medical network. But no, I love a really underrated thing here that Mike Benz tweeted yesterday is that the biggest budget in governments for the Department of Health and Human Services, $1.8 trillion. So bigger than the military, bigger than Treasury, everything. So
he will be in charge of
he'll
that
be
budget.
in charge of deploying $1.8 trillion.
And so I actually started yesterday. I was like, well, let me actually take a look and see what the tie-in between processed foods is and the obesity rate in the United States and the rise in cancer in the United States. I just had a friend. I use the term friend loosely. Guy that I knew that lived on the island that I lived on my entire life. We'd see each other at the beach. Hey, how are you doing, Johnny? He'd always come up. One of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. He's 2 years younger than me. Passed away from cancer like this. He got it. He was diagnosed with leukemia in March. He was dead 3 weeks ago.
Pancreas?
I don't know. I know that it was a very aggressive form of cancer. But when you look at this, you go, why are cancer rates among younger people increasing? Is it due to diet? Is it due to, these medical procedures that were forced on people that there's actually no mandate for, or they made up mandates for you to get?
I was credibly told it's supplements, environmental warming, and the other one there, energy drinks, was the reason I was told by them.
That's for the reason. So I wanted to go back and go, okay, what's the tie-in here? So if you could pull up the next slide, I went and I found out the timeline of processed foods in the United States. Right in the late 1860s, we had the invention of canned food. 1910s, we had had the mass production of processed meats. In the 30s, we had the rise of frozen foods. In the 50s, the introduction of TV dinners and post-war convenience foods. But this is where the skyrocket in obesity and cancer rates started. In the 1970s, an increased use of preservatives and additives. Let's fast forward another 20 years to the 1990s, the fast food boom and the proliferation of ultra-processed foods. And then in 2020, this is what we are currently in. The current phase of our food structure or system, we are in the dominance of processed foods era. 60% of the American daily caloric intake is processed foods. And if you take a look, go to the next slide. Here are the obesity rates from 1975.
Wow.
The introduction of the preservatives and additives to food, and look how we have skyrocketed in obesity. And here's the thing. You think that these rates are worldwide, right? That obesity rates skyrocketed worldwide. And while they have risen, it's particularly concerning in the United States. In 1975, worldwide, 5% of adults were classified as obese. In 2016, that figure worldwide had reached 13%. Meanwhile, in the United States, in the 1960s, roughly 13%. That same amount back in the 60s were classified as obese. Today, it's 43% of Americans are obese. Can we go to the next slide real quick? Take a look. This is the pie chart. Oh, this is the increase in... Is that the amount of processed foods per country. Look, the green is the United States. The blue is the rest of the world. So we lead the world in processed foods. Like you said, Humberto, we are the richest nation in the world, yet our people are eating the poorest of foods. And could we go to the next slide real quick?
I guess you could say it kind of redefines pie charts.
Well, and speaking of pie charts, look at that pie chart. Look at how much of our daily intake is from processed foods. What does that say? 63%. Then you have 12% is plant food, 25% is animal food.
Wow. Do you know what's amazing is, first of all, going back to the RFK as a nomination, if you want to know when Trump is doing the right thing, you look at who's freaking out about the nominations. And when the worst people on earth are freaking out about the nominations, whether it's John Bolton for Matt Gaetz or everyone for RFK, you know that it's the right choice. Nobody freaked out when Rachel Levine was never Secretary of Health and Human Services. She was Assistant Secretary. Nobody cares when a so-called transgender man, physically unhealthy like you've never seen, is involved in it. Nobody complains about that. Then it's like fat shaming. Then it's how dare you make
transphobic. How dare you not think that this man, woman, lady thing is not qualified for their job?
No. And then when you have Michelle Obama talking school lunches, it's good for her. It's a good initiative, even though those lunches were brown in color, uniform, disgusting slop. RFK comes in. You saw that picture of him. The dude's almost 70 years old. Whether or not he's taken testosterone supplements, who cares? I mean, men should probably be doing that anyhow. Healthy. He's skeptical of certain vaccines and the vaccine schedule, not an anti-vaxxer. And people's faces are melting that they're saying he's going to take away your vaxes. I mean, they've made the right choice. And he's been on the right path for a long time.
And it's funny that you bring up the Michelle Obama. So yesterday I was like, hey, let me go and see because I remember there was pushback from the Republican Party regarding Michelle Obama trying to make school lunches healthier. So again, I went to vtnews.ai, click right there, check out that graphic. Jeremy doesn't have.
You're going to pull up
That's
that
my
picture.
fault. Now, okay, you like and subscribe. We'll put the link in the description. That worked. Good job, Jeremy.
You're going to get that picture of what Michelle Obama's lunches actually looked like, and you had kids complaining about them left, right, and center.
What some of the concerns were: federal overreach, cost concerns, food waste, freedom of choice, industry pushback, and then partisan politics. But the one that was really standing out was the food waste. What they were saying was that the food was so disgusting that the students weren't eating it, so they throw away this healthier food that was garbage for you to actually consume.
I can't get an image of it, but if you saw the pictures of the lunches, it was disgusting. I mean, even the apples, which was, I guess, the only natural thing in it, were brown. It was everyone was complaining about it at the time. And bottom line, look, my kids are in public school here. The school lunches are crap, and my wife is very much focused on healthy food, not processed food, in as much as possible, and makes these lunches for these ingrate children that don't eat them. But the bottom line is, processed food is terrible, and the healthy supplements or the alternatives, sucralose, aspartame. Well, I'm having a diet drink, so it's not unhealthy. It's all cancer-causing agents everywhere in what you eat, and it's tough to get away from.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was the actual rise of cancer rates in the United States. Take a look at this graph. This chart right here will show you. All the way to the left is 1975, and I think they're projecting it all the way through. Is that, Jake, is that
2040?
2040. but look at where we're at right now. You can't tell me that they introduced processed foods in the 70s and then we start to see the skyrocketing in cancer rates and then go, no, the two have nothing to do with one another.
But that date also coincided with when all restaurants, beginning with fast food, stopped frying everything in beef tallow and started frying everything in canola oil. And they basically created this whole thing that, fat makes you fat. And to most people, that seems like it made sense. Oh, if I'm eating something cooked in fat that's going to make me fat, I'm going to switch to the plant-based alternative that's going to be healthier for me. But that's not how that works.
At the end of the day, though, this is like our faults, and I mean, thank God for people like RFK that pay attention to this and call it out. And I love how he said the other day he's been praying for 30 years that he'd be in the opportunity to do this. But like, how are we going to acknowledge this for 30 years and not say anything about it? Like, people still go there and eat the stuff and don't complain about it and don't even cook it correctly themselves.
Can you show that graph one more time? The most concerning. Oh, look, there's another thing. Yeah, look at that. Get the angry. If you're angry too.
Oh yeah.
If you're hangry like me, I'm the hangry patriot. I get angry and hungry. Hangry patriot. Make that shirt, Jake, please. Let's get on that. Okay, he's not in charge of shirts. But if you could show that graph again, Jake. The top blue part, what's most concerning about this is that the highest number of cancer rates in the United States, do you know that's under 50?
Wow.
So the blue is under 50. The red down at the bottom, that's 50 to 64. The green is 65 to 74. The purple is 75 to 84. That's particularly concerning that there's an increase in rates of cancer among people under the age of 50. And if we could go to the next thing.
Leave it up for 1 second. I don't want to start any conspiracy theories, but I'd like to see some other medical interventions, their implementation over the decades as correlates to that chart as well. I don't want to say any in particular. I'm just looking at some schedules that were introduced in 1995. And if we want to overlay that, I mean, I think it's more systemic than one cause. Like, it's not high fructose corn syrup. I think it's an entire thing of processed foods, lack of exercise, poor diet, relying on medicine to make you healthy and not getting healthy to avoid the medicine.
What the hell are they projecting, though, with, like, look at that rate of increase of the people under 50 for the blue. Like, that starts in 2025, 2030.
Well, there was certainly.
I know. It's a rhetorical question,
and it's part of what he was alluding to as well.
But you see what I'm seeing, though. Like, that goes way up in the next 15 years. They're projecting.
I would just love to see this chart compared to the obesity chart compared to Quebec or to Canada at large, because I suspect it's going to follow very much the same thing, but we're very much similar up in Canada as well. I think obesity rates are through the roof in Quebec, my province.
So I shouldn't buy Canadian Coke.
No, well, I do know, as a matter of fact, because my wife was just in Canada, that the ingredients in the Fruit Loops in Canada are different than in America. They don't have that red dye and a bunch of other stuff.
And the discussion of RFK and the fact that we're all, more on the conservative side of things, talking about how we're happy this former Democrat is now about to run our health policy, it really shows how the parties have switched. And if you went back 10 years, you would not hear Republicans saying we need to make everything healthier, we need to get preservatives out of school lunches. Like those were crunchy liberal mom Democrat talking points. Like these were women who shopped at Whole Foods and bought all natural deodorant and still smelled bad and that kind of thing.
All right.
But now all of a sudden, it is a right-wing thing. If you talk about seed oils, it means you are a red-pilled right-winger who spends all their time online. And we're happy that RFK is now in charge of these things, but there was no communication. Suddenly the left moved over to be all in support of Big Pharma. The right moved over to being anti-Big Pharma. And go back, I think it was sometime last year. Remember when they were criticizing Gavin Newsom for the Skittles ban? They said, Gavin Newsom's banning Skittles. What he did was he passed a thing in California that outlawed certain food dyes that had been linked to cancer. Skittles actually don't even have those in them. It's Starbursts that contain that dye. But even back then, I was like, why are we criticizing
about
this?
it?
Of course, the whole objection of, why is he focusing on food additives when there's people taking a dump in the street? That's a legitimate question, but it was a victory to have a cancer-causing food additive outlawed in one of our states. I think we should probably try to replicate that.
One of the broader questions is government intervention, and should they be banning stuff as opposed to letting us make educated decisions? It's like the New York wanting to ban big gulps or whatever. The shift of the parties is it's an amazing thing to watch. Like the granola hippies, anti-vaxxers of the 70s are now the right-wing extremists of the 2020s. But the RFK, why the nomination is so amazing is that It fulfills the populist promise of making America healthy again. It rewards RFK for dropping out of the race, basically, and endorsing Donald Trump. And anybody who has any problems with RFK's position on abortion or a Second Amendment issue, historically, because he's evolved a little bit, no, don't have to worry about that. He's not going to implement those policies. He's going to make America healthy again and not take your gun, so you don't have to worry about that, and not have anything to do with abortion. So it's glorious. It's amazing. Everyone who supported RFK, who might have been reluctant to join the alliance, is probably rejoicing today.
And one of the things I'm most excited about, I also went to vtnews.ai. Jeremy, don't worry about the graphic on this one. Pull this up if you could, Jake. I asked vtnews.ai, investigating the origins of COVID-19, what department of the federal government would be in charge of doing that? And the number one answer was the Department of Health and Human Services. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which RFK will oversee. Then, what's funny? The number two answer to this, the National Institute of Health, who may or may not have funded the gain-of-function research that created the virus that leaked from the lab that spread across the globe and shut the world down in 2020. We are going to finally get the answers to what happened in January of 2020, and then every piece of totalitarian measure that the government put in place thereafter. And that is what I am looking forward to, because guess what? Now you have somebody leading the charge into the investigation that thinks it was bullshit, because RFK is the real Anthony Fauci book. He has been out there talking about Anthony Fauci and his role in the HIV and AIDS pandemic in the late 80s and early 90s. And then you have Matt Gaetz, who is also against the COVID mandates, saying that's a guy that could actually prosecute the people and bring charges against them for the shit that we went through as Americans, as Canadians. I can't even imagine what you guys went through.
5.5 months of curfew in Quebec in year one, and
because
then
you can't get it after sundown.
It was.
What the fuck were those answers? That's the stuff that drives me nuts. Is here's a curfew. You have to be in by 8 p.m. Why COVID? Okay, so COVID goes away at.
No, but Rob, it was
daylight hours, and then afterwards you're more likely to get it?
They were shutting down rinks and not letting kids play hockey outdoors at night in Canada, in Quebec, not the rest of Canada. And
they filled the skate parks in California with sand so people couldn't go.
That.
Do you remember when they had the Coast Guard went after a paddleboard in the ocean and detained them, and they went, it's for the greater good. And people were like, it is for the greater good. What a bunch of idiots.
You're gonna get RFK investigating, the Attorney General pressing charges, and Kash Patel of the FBI going after Fauci. Who else? What's her name? Not Wojcicki. That's YouTube. Walensky. Yeah. Maybe Bourla. Maybe Bonkel. Maybe go after these companies that fraudulently stole taxpayer dollars to deliver a product that did not meet the specs that it was supposed to meet. Go after all of them. This is cleaning house.
We're about to see the real power of the government in a way we never had before, because their whole agenda has been to keep things the same, for most administrations. But now, we have they're calling the Avengers. We have the person who's best suited in each of these positions, and I don't know, I think that we're going to see what the government can actually do if it's determined and motivated to do something.
Everybody keeps saying America's back, but
it's never been this way. There's never been a setup like this before, not even close.
I feel like maybe this is what they felt like. This is what concerns me. Is this what they felt like in the 60s with Kennedy before he got assassinated?
No, not even
Was there
close.
ever... Because it feels like we're on the cusp of a revolution.
But
the revolution is that the government is
back in the hands of the people.
Revolutionizing themselves.
But think about it, there's never been a time where somebody was president, then got a break to think about it for 4 years and exactly who would be best for what, and then have the chance to do that again. So that's what we're going to say. You're the first time you're president, you don't get the chance to go into it strategically, and then your next term you keep some of the same people in place and whatnot. But there's never been a setup like this where he's coming back with a vengeance.
Well, there was Grover
Got to think about
Cleveland,
it.
but Cleveland didn't really come back with a vengeance
No.
and leave an enduring historical legacy. Trump might be about to, and
the way it all happened.
As soon as RFK got appointed, Pfizer and Moderna stock tanked.
All of them did.
I don't know if you saw the charts. It was straight down.
Nova's Biotech 7% down, Moderna stock 5.6% down, Sanofi 3.4% down, and Pfizer took the lesser hit at 2.6%.
Well, Pfizer took the lesser hit because they've already tanked over the last year, because they've Moderna only had one product that they ever brought to market, and it was this.
You ever see a revenue chart of their income?
I imagine it goes dip, boop, like that.
Yeah, and then straight down.
No, and Pfizer. I mean, my goodness, the billions that they made from this product alone. artificially drove up the stocks. And I'd love to see what Nancy Pelosi was trading. and all
well,
that.
think
That's
about
what
their
I saw
business
yesterday.
model.
That's how I knew the stocks went down, is because there was a meme yesterday of
She
Nancy
sold.
Pelosi on her phone, and the meme was, sell my Pfizer stock immediately.
Think about how crazy of a business model that was. I mean, like we were all saying it during the time, but create a product. You're not liable for injuries for the product. Make the government enforce your product and don't cut them up, fire people from their jobs if they don't take the product, and then do it again for 3 more of them. So, what
and
a
now that we're talking
crazy
about
business model that nobody else gets to use.
And now we're talking about the market and this is what pisses me off the most, aside from them killing us, literally killing us. This is so unfair because they don't, the tallow thing, for example, that you brought up, they have so many rules and regulations, and this is so rigged. They rigged the market to kill us, all right?
Yeah.
That we couldn't react. Like, if we knew we were dying, there'd be letters, and people would be calling McDonald's, hey, dude, go back to tallow. If not, I'm not going to go there, all right? We're not having the cereals anymore. So, and everything is so expensive. If you, like, Brandon knows that I cook every day because I don't trust anything. And I think the game plan for RFK, and I'm saying it here, it's not my place to say it, I will make the 100-year diet. Any product that was good 100 years ago, that's what you should be eating. Because you see the charts. You see the charts. It's a correlation.
Well, the flip side is they'll say 100 years ago lifespan wasn't as long as it is today, but there is obviously, there's an interplay between eating healthy and benefiting from medical advancements in all of this. First of all, the beef tallow. My wife got a beef tallow spray that I use to oil the pans. It tastes delicious.
It's incredible. Duck
Eggs are
fat is
better when
incredible.
you cook them in butter.
I use the
And
bacon
everyone
one
knows
at home.
this. Anybody here drink raw milk?
I tried it. I actually tried raw buffalo milk, and it was
Only
delicious.
breast. Go ahead. Why though?
Have you ever
A man
tried?
of quality, I
Yes.
Have you
No,
ever-
straight from the tip.
Rob, don't joke. Have you ever tried breast milk straight from your wife's breast?
When the baby, yes. At one point when our 5-year-old, yes. Not at 5.
Hold on, your friend.
When our 5-year-old was a baby, I was like, well, I want to see what the fuss is about. And then she's like, you're not going to nurse off my nipple. And I said, well, let me take a sip out of the bottle. And
It's warmer and sweeter than regular.
but my head, I was like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. So it made my mentality made me think it tasted gross.
Well, I got a funny story which I may or may not share at some
Well, now
point
that
during
we're
this episode.
down this
Now
rabbit
we're
hole, like,
clear.
I'm about to have a
Who's gonna
baby.
know?
Okay,
and
so
I've already put in a request.
Fair
Nobody
warning.
else gets to try it, but when it's your wife, it's like,
Oh, but
why not?
Well, here's how.
I'm curious.
When my
I'm not gonna
wife,
eat my cornflakes out of it.
no, well, you won't. That'd be good. First of all, you got to get the milker thing, and it's like actual something you'd see on a cow. And it goes, and it sucks the milk out of your wife's boobs. When our kid wasn't latching properly, and so she was like, eventually just actually bit portions of the nipple off, and so the doctor said, air it out and give it some sun. And my wife is tanning and getting sun, and then like one of the glands just pops a leak, and it's just start literally spraying milk into it. Like, wait a minute, don't do anything. And then I get under there like a faucet, and I tasted it. It was warm and sweeter than regular milk. TMI. So what were we saying before? Oh no, but back to Pfizer for a second. The stock tanking and having.
It's good that every woman who works for or appears on this show is gone this week.
And now it's just going to get really
Are
dark.
you saying we would have tried to milk them?
No, I'm saying they would have been very uncomfortable with this
If
conversation.
it was any good, with the Chinese encampments in China will be milking ladies there because there's slaves in China. I
do
just
you know
need to
they're
say
not?
that. I don't know. If it was a big product, there'd be a market for
Well,
All right,
okay.
back to Pfizer. Hold on.
Well, also, last word of advice: those milkers, they have like a scale of 1 to 10. Do not start it on 10. I can tell you. All right, back to Pfizer and RFK Jr. Now, Robert Barnes, the guy that I do my Sunday show with every night, we have a beautiful locals community. He's representing Brooke Jackson. She's one of the Pfizer whistleblowers. I think we might have talked about this at one point during the 99 episodes. He was representing her in a qui tam lawsuit, basically for fraud against Pfizer. The government didn't want to get involved. And for obvious reasons, whether or not they were part of the fraud with Pfizer, as in Pfizer saying, we're going to deliver a product, it's going to be a vaccine that's going to prevent transmission, going to be safe and effective, and whether or not they delivered that or something totally opposite to that, whistleblower Brooke Jackson files suit. Government says, we're not getting involved until 2 years later when the Biden administration gets involved and says, now we're killing the lawsuit because we don't want this to go to discovery. We don't want to whatever. Get into that lawsuit. That lawsuit is currently under appeal, at least the dismissal of it. It's a qui tam to reveal the fraud that Pfizer perpetrated, if not against the government, certainly against the American people whose tax dollars were financing their business operations to provide a vaccine that was safe and effective and Whether or not they produce that is up for debate.
Well, how about the head of the FDA used to work at Pfizer during that time, or whoever had to approve the vaccine for use from the people? Like he used to work at Pfizer, and then he's the person who gets to decide if the people could take the vaccine.
But there was a chart that was floating around on social media that showed every single person that was involved in the FDA and the Department of Health and Human Services, and then what they go on to do afterwards. And it's big pharma, big pharma, big pharma. None of it's like cam girl, unemployed. It's always big pharma.
It's like we regulate all the things that are counterproductive to the economy, then we don't regulate things that are detrimental to people's health.
It is what RFK described in his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, as regulatory capture. And I think Trump has put forward a plan that you're not going to be allowed to work in these businesses for a certain amount of time after you leave certain industries.
Cool down.
It's regulatory capture. It's not specific to pharma. It's the way the system has been corrupted now for the benefit of private enterprise that works in collusion with the government.
So one of the things that I'm very excited about, because you brought up Anthony Fauci, do you believe that Anthony Fauci, now that we have RFK that could lead the investigations and we have an attorney general who could prosecute, do you believe that Anthony Fauci will be brought charges? Will there be charges against Anthony Fauci? Because I was looking up how much we talk about Elon Musk and Vivek now taking control of the Department of Government Efficiency, correct?
Oh, yeah.
It's Doge. Do you know how much money we spend annually on providing Secret Service to Anthony Fauci? Any idea what we pay per year?
$3 mil?
7.5 million.
Wrong.
Three.
Wrong.
100,000?
Wrong. Way off. $14 to $15 million a year
kidding me?
between January 4th of 2023 and September 20th of 2024. We spent approximately $15 million on Secret Service protection for Anthony Fauci.
Wow.
Why? Why does Anthony Fauci need Secret Service protection? Why? Like, guys, have you ever heard?
No, like who else gets that aside from ex-presidents?
And their crackhead children, because we've seen when Hunter Biden goes to court, there's a parade of Secret Service vehicles that you're paying for with your tax dollars. You are, I am myself as well as you at home. So now we have a person who wants to investigate the origins of COVID. We have somebody who wants to bring charges against people who were involved in the origins of COVID. And we have a Department of Government Efficiency that wants to crack down on government waste. And I can't think of anything more wasteful than that fuckhead walking around protected with our tax dollars.
Oh, Rob, I think he's going to flee the country once this administration gets in.
Well, I've got my theory. My operating theory is that Biden's going to maybe issue some blanket pardons for a number of people who fear a Trump reprisal. So federal agents, maybe federal employees, pardon Hunter Biden, pardon Donald Trump as like a reconciliation, pardon himself.
Fuck that, man. I want vengeance.
No, I don't know
I want every single person that got fired from their job because they refused to take the vaccine. I want every single person that had some type of side effect from taking some type of mysterious medical intervention that they didn't want to take. I want the people who died from COVID to find out what actually caused it. And if it was the department with the institute, what is it? The NIH, the National
Institute.
People that couldn't go to church, people that had to fucking live stream their fucking wedding or funeral.
Oh, the people that committed suicide because they were locked into their apartments in New York City for 8 months at a time.
Yeah.
If Anthony Fauci and the organizations he was involved in funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Which they did.
Which they did.
Confirmed.
It's confirmed. But
Which he lied
And he
about
lied about.
under oath.
if it is legally confirmed through all the proper channels that they did that, and that was what was responsible for the virus leaking and killing all those people and destroying so many facets of society as we know it, that is grounds for dragging Fauci and his associates in front of the Hague, putting them on trial for crimes against humanity, and executing them.
It's no.
Yeah.
I know execution is extreme.
No, I think
there is no other punishment for that.
I think a handful of people need to be executed.
If he did that and he was complicit in it, it's the Department of Government Efficiency should not just strip his Secret Service protection. It is a crime that he is still breathing air at the end of that, if it is
100%.
proven.
It is objectively a crime against humanity to be proven. And yeah, I was slow to get on the Nuremberg 2.0 train because, I was slow to get angry. But there has to be some meaningful justice. Otherwise, it will be a perpetuity of injustice. For
I can't think of
punishment.
anybody
there.
that benefited from COVID besides people in big pharma, right? You lost your grandfather. I lost my career. My wife lost her job. Did you lose anything? Did you lose your career? Did you lose? What year did you graduate college?
2018. But I quit my job though because of the vaccine.
Okay, so you lost your job. Connor, how were you affected by the COVID-19 pandemic?
I mean, it pales in comparison to what you've just mentioned. It was really difficult to plan a wedding when, try to start my life independently.
All right, so
get an
we
apartment.
all get retribution.
They all suffered
Connor,
more.
not
No.
so much.
Well,
Look, I never missed a day of work.
I say I'm
pressured into it. So
fortunate in that I say fortunate to some extent, but my grandmother died of loneliness. Not my grandmother-in-law, my wife's mother. The sweetest woman on earth was put basically into solitary for a year and a half. Didn't die from COVID. She just died because she didn't get to see anybody. I went to see her, and they had masks on, and they wouldn't let anybody touch him. We had to do it outdoors. The people who died alone, I had to attend an uncle's funeral by frickin' Zoom because of limitations. No, it was psychological torture. They turned homes into prisons and families against families.
Well,
If you're in the
them-
chat, right now, I know we got to wrap up, and then we'll move on to the next. We're going to go to Viva next. If you're in the chat right now, you're watching. I want you to comment right now. Do you want justice for the American people, for the world? Do you want Anthony Fauci and the people that may or may not have been behind this pandemic investigations pending to be held accountable? Do you want them to be prosecuted, or do you believe that at this point Donald Trump needs to be the person? What did you call him? The person that is. He's unifying, and he's forgiving. And do you want to see these people pardoned, or do you want to see these people held accountable for what they took away from you, from the people that you love and care about? All right, let's move on, because we are on. It's not just we're going to hang Anthony Fauci. Coming January 21st, fuckface Fauci. We're going to go over to the very
That's getting
well.
clipped.
Sorry, the very well spoken, much eloquent, and the law. Viva, what do you have about Alex Jones and the current ongoing Infowars acquisition by The Onion?
So it's amazing. We were talking about this before the show. Like, I've been following Alex Jones for now the saga for 6 years. This was before I even got into the vlog and before I got opinionated. One of my first viral law videos on YouTube was breaking down the deposition of Alex Jones in this trial. I didn't know that Robert Barnes, the guy that I would end up doing, what we're doing with now, was the lawyer in that case. And then YouTube took the video down because they said it was hate speech, and then it came back up and it got remonetized. So this has been going on for years. But Alex Jones, to back it up from the beginning, was sued by the Sandy Hook families in Connecticut and Texas for intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, all these claims on the basis that some of the statements he made over the years, which were factually incorrect, ill-advised, to put it mildly, caused them irreparable harm. And so he got sued. Ultimately, it was like 15 minutes of montage over 8 years of content, and the best they could get were certain statements which, however bad they were not worth the $1.5 billion judgments that they got in Connecticut and Texas. And now, important to note, the judgments they got in Connecticut and Texas were not in front of a jury after trial, after consideration. He was defaulted into liability in both of those states.
We have that NPR report.
No, it's what? Defaulted into liability. Not, okay, you don't get to defend yourself, but plaintiffs still need to prove their case. They alleged he violated or defaulted on discovery obligations, didn't communicate documents that he had access, that he didn't have access to, documents that didn't exist. Judges say, not only do you not get to present a defense, we adjudicate your liability, and the only trial you're going to get is on quantum, which is what I went down to Texas to view. It was, 2 years ago now. They hand select a jury who's amenable to outlandish awards, and then order an aggregate of $1.4 some odd billion in damages. An FBI agent who didn't have a kid get murdered that day, who didn't have any family get murdered that day, who was just doing his job as an FBI agent, was awarded $100 million in this as part of this $1.5 billion award, because he said Alex Jones was harassing him online when that guy was getting harassed online before Alex Jones even got involved in the covering it. But you never know that because there was never any trial, any hearing. They didn't go over any legal questions as to actual malice that has to be proven against a public figure, media protections that would benefit Alex Jones, statute of limitations, default into liability, $1.5 billion. Okay, fine. In the context of that, Alex Jones, Infowars, files for bankruptcy protection, try to restructure, see if you can get a settlement to pay off these plaintiffs, not the $1.5 billion, but settle. Okay, well, you settle for $50 million over 5 years. It became clear that the lawyers...
I'm sorry, is that a realistic amount of money for him to pay?
From what I understand, that offer was on the table. And I don't know anything confidential. This is what has been publicly discussed. That there was like in the orders of 8 to 10 million a year over the course of several years. An offer that would have been much better than what's going on right now. But it's clear that the lawyers who are politically motivated, the FBI who sort of initiated this lawsuit by finding amenable plaintiffs to file the lawsuit, they're not interested in any form of compensation for the victims. They want to shut Alex Jones down, shut Alex Jones up. Okay. So they reject any offers for settlement, and it's not going anywhere. So then they petition him to bankruptcy, and it goes into liquidation. Judge Lopez out of Texas says, okay, we'll liquidate the assets, and it'll go to open market. Whoever bids the most will buy your assets out of bankruptcy. It turns out that in the dead of night, what was supposed to be a public bid, a public auction, was turned into a secret auction. People put them down. Nobody knows who offers what. And the trustee, a politically motivated hack, apparently accepted an offer from The Onion to buy the assets of Alex Jones out of bankruptcy, which wasn't even the highest offer, financed with basically the judgment, bonded judgment, or like they're going to leverage the judgment of $1.6 billion to buy the assets of Alex Jones. So they say, we have a $1.5 billion judgment. It's worth, let's just say $100 million, if we can even get that. $10 million. We'll use that judgment to buy the assets, financing The Onion to acquire it in a secret auction, which is no longer an auction. And they go ahead and shut down Alex Jones, cut the cables, cut the whatever, the feeds yesterday. And they go to court, and this Judge Lopez says, this is improper to say the least. If we play, we won't play the whole thing, but Alex Jones summarizing a bit. This was yesterday before
Future press secretary of the United States right there. That's right. Alex Jones.
So check this out. This is him giving a bit of the rundown.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:50 right now. I'm about to upload this to X. I just got word 15 minutes ago that my lawyers and folks met with the U.S. trustee over our bankruptcy this morning, and they said they're shutting us down even without a court order. This morning, the Connecticut Democrats with the Onion newspaper bought us. They asked, did they outbid? They said, well, it was competitive. So they changed all the bidding rules, made it secret 2 days ago. I had a bad feeling. I told you that. And just like they tried to shut us down back in late May without a court order, they're supposed to have a court order. There's going to be injunctions filed. I'm about to go live out of Harrison's American Journal studio. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be here until they come in here and turn the lights off. And I'm going to say, where's your court order? So this is all going down right now. They want to silence the American people, but we're not going to be silenced. Be sure and follow me at the Alex Jones Network at AJN Live on X right now. They're filed in court to take real Alex Jones away. That's totally unconstitutional. The judge already said no, so they filed in other courts.
Okay, you can pause
so
here.
Live feed going up.
So bottom line, he sort of set up an alternative platform. But yeah, appreciate what was going on there, because they go in and try to basically, without the judge even ratifying this, because in bankruptcy, unless I'm mistaken, the judge has to approve of the sale of the assets and make sure, A, that it's in the best interest of the plaintiffs, the judgment creditors, and B, just approve of it to make sure that there's no chicanery going on. I'm predicting now that there's going to be ethics complaints by these plaintiffs against their lawyers, who are basically acting in a way to ensure that they get pennies on the dollar as opposed to tens of millions of dollars by way of an acceptable settlement. We can skip over those. That was the summary of the liability findings. And then The Onion comes out yesterday before the hearing. So they had a hearing yesterday in front of Judge Lopez. The video we just saw was before the hearing.
Okay.
And the hearing, now the judge said, none of this makes any sense. I'm not authorizing this. And come next week, we're going to have an evidentiary hearing on what the hell went down that you guys thought you could do this behind closed doors in secrecy and then come in and shut Alex Jones. If we bring up the his name is Tetrator. It's really funny. They say Tetrator. He's the traitor puts out a funny article as to why The Onion bought Infowars, and it seems that they maybe didn't get away with doing it. And anybody who wants to go read it online, basically they say, oh, well, Infowars has been great at fear-mongering and promoting conspiracy theories for the last 20 years, starting with whatever. And so it would be a great addition to The Onion, so that we can take it over and turn it into a joke, which I think is the ultimate objective here. They wanted to take Alex Jones's name and likeness as an asset in bankruptcy. The judge said, no, you can't do that, because it would basically turn Alex Jones into an indentured servant. But what they want to do is shut Alex Jones down. But beyond that, I'm convinced that they wanted, by doing this, to turn the future legacy of Infowars into the current legacy of The Onion, a failed satire website, so that in 5 years' time, when anybody hears Infowars, they're going to think, oh, failed satire website, not accurate, predictive warnings and messaging and news information to the public. So it's a way of sort of like not just shutting Alex Jones down, but discrediting his legacy.
It's a humiliation ritual.
Yeah.
And like you said, they didn't even take the highest bid. They took the one that most suited what they wanted to have happen with Infowars, which was they wanted Alex Jones humiliated. They wanted Infowars name dragged through the mud more so than it already has been. And this isn't even to say, Alex Jones is 100% solid about all his stuff. Like, he has a record of being incorrect about plenty of things. But that's not the point. He was a serious news outlet for whatever else it was. And like you said, The Onion is a terribly failed publication with its own legacy dragged through the mud by having the Babylon Bee take over as the actual satire outlet that people like now.
So was there an appeals process, though? Because it sounds like a highly abnormal situation, like same way as Trump. So, that sounds like a politically motivated court. So,
oh, no, it's politically motivated is an understatement.
Yeah.
There is an appeals process, but from what I understand in Texas, you can execute on a judgment notwithstanding an appeal. So it is all going to appeal.
For
and
the
if Alex
first one,
Jones,
though, the one from Connecticut.
that one's under appeal as well.
And I want to make another point here. I don't know if you guys remember this Marine. I think it was last year. His name is Daniel Penny. All right. We're seeing that the trial right now is the punishment. All right. This guy got dragged around. So to show a point, like if you talk out of line, we're gonna come for everything that you have. If you protect people in public, because you guys saw the video of him choking the guy. The guy was about to be violent. All right. And the trial right now is dwindling down, but they destroyed his public image. They destroyed his life.
Wait,
right?
I don't understand how they could move forward with things though while the appeal process is pending.
It's a legislative problem. Not all states allow for execution of judgment if it's under appeal, or you post a certain bond to make sure that you'll have the monies to satisfy it if your appeal is not granted. It's a big problem. In Texas, it's a big problem because if Alex Jones wins on appeal, the damage is more than already done. But to your point about the auction and accepting the one that accomplished their goals and not the one that accomplished the financial interests of their clients, I know nothing confidential. Roger Stone, from what I understood, was putting together a conservative group to buy the assets. Yeah. Obviously for more than what The Onion was buying it for, because from what I understand, The Onion's offer wasn't even the biggest one. And the trustee says, no, we have other considerations that are not financial. I presume that's what he said. And the other issue being, hold on now, I totally forgot my thought there. Oh, yes, destroying the legacy. There's an analogy here between, what do commies do or Marxists do? They destroy history. They blow up buildings. They destroy artwork. They tear down monuments. This is an iteration of tearing down a monument, of blowing up a building of history. They're erasing history by rebranding it as The Onion and not Infowars. And I mean, it's a pure Marxist tactic. We'll see what happens next week, but this transaction was never going to go through in my view. I said it yesterday. The only question is, how pissed off is a judge going to be that you have rogue trustees and rogue attorneys trying to undermine and humiliate the authority of the court in the public's eye?
So what's the biggest like liability or problem with the courts where we see the capability for them to be politically motivated, like with Trump and with Alex Jones? So, like, is there a single biggest issue or change that we could make to make it less vulnerable to these things?
I don't know. It wouldn't be bad to see some red AGs going after some of these rogue prosecutors, these rogue judges, ethics complaints, like Elise Stefanik filing ethics complaints against Engoron in New York and Leticia James in New York. The judges are partisan, and whether or not they're elected or appointed, I mean, you run into a sort of corruption in that this was in Austin, Texas. It's the bluest of the cities within a red state. Politics ruins everything. I mean, you get judges who are politically motivated and not legally oriented. This is what ends up happening.
Same with the jury. Crazy question, but do you think that we ever get to a place where like there's like an AI judge that could be unbiased? Like that thought just popped.
Who programs the AI judge?
Right.
Well, I would put more faith in an AI judge than in some of the judges that we've seen, but
the Honorable Judge Grok now presiding.
Yeah,
in fun mode.
You would get more accurate rulings by way of damages.
Right.
There's never been a $450 million disgorgement in a victimless alleged fraud like we saw in New York. A $1.5 billion for intentional infliction of emotional. It's astronomical, unheard of. And so, if only for the quantum, it has to be overturned. The process has been totally bastardized. I was involved in a case where a defendant had behaved so badly they were defaulted, foreclosed from pleading, which is far different than being defaulted into liability. Foreclosed from pleading, you don't get to defend your case, but they still need to make their evidence. So from day one to the present day, this has been a politically motivated lawfare attempt to destroy Alex Jones. Some hypothesize because he helped get Trump elected, and this is sort of the Clinton machine getting back at him. and a deep state apparatus getting back at him.
Well, the harder they try to get somebody, like the more blatant and brute force they are, the closer the person is to hitting the nerve. Like the way they were willing to go out on a limb against Trump and with Alex Jones, it must mean they're really onto something that's scary to them.
Their very existence. But the bottom line irony in all of this, and Jones says it often, is like he would have been retired into the sunset now had they not done this. And instead, not only are they martyrizing him, not only are they making his voice bigger than ever and his networks bigger than ever, they're keeping him in business doing what he's doing because he would have been out and, enjoying his life in Texas.
That's the same thing they did with Donald Trump with the fictitious charges in New York, Georgia, and
the Mouse House
You
lady.
got Florida, D.C.
well, yeah, there it is.
You got
New York,
everywhere.
Georgia, and Florida were the ones that he was facing charges in, and then it just ended up making him more likable to the American public because the American public looked at him and went, "Wow, look, the government is prosecuting him. If they can prosecute him, then they can prosecute any one of us." And he said it at one point, and I thought he was being Trump when he said the only thing standing between them doing this to you is me. And I thought that was him being braggadocious. But then I realized, like, wow, they're doing this to him. So if they can do this to him, then it shows that, hey, you step out of line. Look what we did to a sitting president.
Well, I would go.
Saying.
I would take it the other way around. He's saying if they can do this to me, they can do it to you. I think Trump has revealed they have been doing this to people systematically over decades, but people without the bullhorns, people without the support to actually put it on blast and fight back. They've been screwing people in the federal system for decades. They've been using lawfare for decades. I mean, they started with Alex Jones a decade ago. But the only thing is, Trump had the bullhorn to put it on blast, and people saw in Trump themselves being victimized by this system.
So is this stat true? I heard somebody say today that 99% of people who are federal have what is it called, like federally prosecuted or have a felony against them, they have to take a plea because they can't afford to fight the legal battle. So Trump was in a unique situation where he had the wealth and means to fight something, but normally in politics, if this happened to somebody, then they would have to bend over, like Michael Flynn.
Well, like Trump's lawyers in Georgia who pleaded to a case that's probably going to get dismissed, and I say that not blaming them. They say something like it's like 95% conviction rate if you include plea deals, and it's what they do: overcharge, threaten you and your family, bankrupt you, like they did with Paul Manafort, lock you up, and that's for those who even have who have remote means. But this is what they do. It is on full blast now, and this is why you need a full cleaning of the House, and this is why you have people freaking out at having an AG like Matt Gaetz as opposed to a corrupt asshole like Merrick Garland.
What do you
Now
think your network?
let's talk about the business aspect of this. All right, you take Alex Jones out of the Infowars, like it's worth nothing because Infowars is Alex Jones. Let's say they grab his vitamin and supplement business. You take Alex Jones out of that business, he just goes to another company and make a new one. So like Alex Jones is Infowars. So if you don't buy Infowars with Alex Jones in it, and the other thing is the right, we've been pegged by the system so much that we're so used of our influencers and voices to be banned that we like the audience shifting from this account to that account is already a move that we know how to do, so it matters of time. I don't know if you're gonna give him 60 days of non-compete or whatever, and in 60 days he's gonna get back every Infowars fan back on his network.
And speaking of the business side of things, I want to point out another humorous irony here is that the Onion itself was sold off early this year by its own parent company. I wrote this article about 8 months ago. Geo Media was the parent company of the Onion, several other publications, including Deadspin. I don't know if you remember Deadspin, which was the one that took the sports publication that found the picture of that little kid at the Kansas City Chiefs game.
Yes, and then they said he was in blackface.
They only showed half his face, and they accused him of blackface. That company was also sold off by this parent company. So the people who currently own the Onion and use the Onion to buy Infowars just picked up this failed publication like 4 or 5 months ago. And the guy who's currently the CEO is a former misinformation reporter, I believe, from NBC. So he knows nothing about satire and comedy and news publication. But he does know everything about cracking down on people who counter the narrative.
Just to your point also about the value of the company being zero without Alex Jones.
Zero.
The best not analogy comparison. Project Veritas without James O'Keefe, value zero. And so it highlights that what they're doing is killing any value, killing any potential for these plaintiffs to actually recover meaningful sums on their judgment. out of what motivation, I don't know, but the plaintiffs should sue their lawyers sooner than later.
Say, can they sue for that?
1,000%.
Fiduciary?
1,000%.
Okay, nice.
And I'm sure they will when they say, like, hey, we had a $10 million, $80 million a year for 5 years on the table, and now we got $1 million in studio equipment that the Onion is using. What the hell did you do to us, lawyers?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's objectively insane. And whether you like Alex Jones or not, everybody has to be a little bit peeved with this, because it's people say stupid things and people say things that hurt people. The reality is, when it comes to the Sandy Hook families, the conspiracy theories were out there before Alex Jones got involved. He only got involved because his audience is saying, have you heard these theories? But nobody ever heard any of that evidence because no evidence was adduced. And you let something like this happen where you say one wrong thing and they're going to ruin you for the rest of your life.
I've showed footage on this show of early reports about that second guy dressed in a black shirt and camo pants that people saw fleeing the campus into the woods that never aired again after that first time. And that's like, those are just confirmed things that happened early on.
Yeah, and that's not something that you could still go on YouTube. It's hard to find, but I've seen that video of the person and the news covering it from the helicopter, because there's a helicopter overhead of the school and they're tracking a mysterious figure in camo pants running into the woods, and then you never hear that. Gets memory hold real quick. And then if you bring it up, it's like, oh, you don't believe Sandy Hook happened? It's like, no, wait, I'm just asking about that. It's like,
jump?
What, you don't think those kids died? No, I do believe they died. I just have questions about, you must like Alex Jones and the frogs are gay. And you're like, okay, I can't even talk to this.
The frogs were gay, by the way.
And that turned out to be kind of true.
Yeah, now everybody's gay.
Me too.
No, but the issue also is, if the new standard is violent event denialism is a $1.5 billion award, everyone out there denying that Trump got shot in the ear and that Corey Comparatori is dead, $1 billion. I mean,
Right.
the idea that you
Hear that, JoJo from Jers?
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But it is to be expected that when a massively tragic event occurs, people will have conspiracy theories, and ask questions. And if that becomes criminalized, you are criminalizing the ability to actually do any form of meaningful investigative journalism.
But okay, I dealt with that, and I still do with 9/11. I know I bring it up in every episode. Hi, 9/11. Welcome. It happened. I never forget. That's a certain way that people cope, is to try and understand, because it doesn't make sense to the person. You can watch those planes fly into those buildings. I've done it 1,000 times over the past 23 years. To me, it still doesn't make sense to me. So my brain's still trying to figure out, did this happen from 19 guys that were funded by a guy that was hiding in a cave on dialysis that made videos afterwards saying he didn't do it? Like, he literally denied it in multiple interviews and said, no, it wasn't me. And then years later, okay, maybe I did. That's kind of how human nature is. When you see something that you don't understand, your brain tries to figure out a way. And sometimes the dots don't always connect. Alex Jones said, I was wrong about Sandy Hook. He came out and admitted.
And not just that, by the way, when he was after the default liability, even on the quantum, he was not allowed asserting his innocence. He was not allowed talking about the times he corrected himself and affirmed the death of the children, and he wasn't allowed invoking the fact that he had apologized to the families previously multiple times. It was all just wild. But the coping mechanism is interesting, because that is, I think, what drives a lot of people who deny that Sandy Hook occurred. There's some people out there who still think 9/11 was holograms. And so it is a way for people who cannot accept an atrocity to cope with the atrocity, to make up it never happened. So I don't need to worry about this happening again to me or my family.
And it is. We'll move on. But the idea of, we talked about this before the show, that, okay, it's horrific when you see any type of school shooting. I was in college when the Virginia Tech shooting. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Hung Chung
The Asian
Du
kid
or whatever.
who had a semi-automatic pistol, no rifles or anything that I recall
And
from
went
that.
from classroom to classroom and was executing kids. It's horrific to see. There is something particularly heinous about young children in elementary school. So it is. I understand having questions about it, because it's hard for your mind to wrap that around. At that point, when they're that age, they're sitting ducks. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how to defend themselves. High school kids, college kids, they can figure out how to hide, how to run. They're still not like able to defend themselves as they should be able to in that scenario. They don't have guns. But children are particularly vulnerable. So it is very hard. So I could see how people have questions about these things. And then when their investigations come out and they go, you know what, I was wrong. That wasn't the way. But then they, on top of that, go, I'm wrong. Oh, by the way, you owe $1.5 billion to be. He's going to be selling food buckets for the rest of his life if he had to pay that judgment off.
The worst part of it all is that if the government wanted to protect schools, it'd be very easy. It'd cost $10 billion a year to put an armed guard and metal detectors at every school in the country. But
We can't
instead,
do that. We have to send that money
10,
to you.
10
no,
Alex,
I know, you
10
think
Alex
it's more
Jones
important.
settlements.
No,
to fix the
and
problem.
part of the issue as to why people did have conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook is they did tear down the school very quickly afterwards, and then people say why. Some people came to the conclusion, the wrong one, that it didn't happen. Others say they tore it down so that they wouldn't know that there were security lapses that they were supposed to have implemented in that school that would have mitigated that potential disaster. So tear the school down so nobody can investigate it, and then weaponize it as a Second Amendment issue so you can go after the guns. And then you get the talking heads on the media saying, we'll stand on the graves of these children to take away your firearms.
They tore the school down.
yeah.
Now, to clarify, the Stoneman Douglas building is still up in Parkland. I drive past it pretty frequently when we go to visit family members over there. It's been empty.
You make the argument they didn't want the memory of it there or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
kinda,
that's what
kind of
they-
like how they cremated the kid that shot Trump.
That's what they said about Douglas. They,
Yeah, well,
they said
it's
they were
kinda-
going to tear down the building.
They kept
but
Columbine
haven't
up.
done it yet.
In
Yeah.
fact,
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
there's a weird part of me that when I go on vacation, they're always to these destinations where horrific moments in history happen. and
Your
then
eyes go crazy when you say that.
I go to these weird murder sites. Like, I went to Columbine because I was in 7th grade when that happened, and it was the first time where you're watching a school shooting unfold in real time, and I wanted to go see it for myself. I know that that's incredibly fucked up to hear that you spend money to go on a vacation to go to these death ritual places. But I like, there's a part of me that the morbid curiosity, I need to see it so I can understand. They did tear down Sandy Hook Elementary
serious
School.
question.
but so
serious
but
question,
with
serious
it- with
It was
question.
just near where you went to vacation. You didn't go to vacation just to go there.
Sure,
right?
we'll go with that.
Wait. Was there any other people doing the same thing?
No.
Well, no, they
It was
have
like I was part of the Columbine tour.
No, but there is a known thing. It's called like morbid tours, and like people go to sites of
No,
disaster.
my best friend, his parents lived in Denver, and or
Okay.
it was in the mountains of Denver. But when we landed, I went, "Hey, do you mind if we take this 20-minute detour after we go to the dispensary so I can go? Because I'm going to need to be numb to see what I want to go see."
See the proximity of tearing down the school to the event.
Demolished October of 2013 after the shooting happened December 14th of 2012. So you're talking 9 months later.
Interesting.
That is a weird. I understand you don't want it to be there, but there's also this part where, hey, how could we learn from this devastating school shooting? If there were security lapses, let's go and figure out what they were.
If there were security lapses that ought to have been implemented that were not implemented, and then you go from that to tearing down the school so it can't be investigated and scapegoating. There are people out there who think Alex Jones had something to do with the murder.
Oh, yeah, I've heard people say Alex Jones killed the kids in Sandy Hook. I'm like, wait a minute.
or that he motivated the shooter. I mean, everything that they went after Alex for was post facto, after the rumors, the scandals, and the theories had already been born, so to speak. And they're, look, for whatever anybody thinks, they have used crisis actors in the past in certain events, wars, tragedies, etc., to further propaganda. Yeah. So the idea that people who know the history then apply it, albeit improperly, to current events, one can understand it without saying now they have to be ruined for the rest of their life.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe we ought to move on. I don't think Patrick has $1.5 billion either.
Oh, I'm saying I believe Sandy Hook happened, and I feel bad for the families, as does everybody here on the podcast in some capacity. We just have questions about what happened. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong.
That's the gravest sin you could commit: asking a question.
You've had a little too much to think.
It's got presidents killed, and it got Alex Jones deplatformed and sued into billions. Well, thank you for that story, Viva. Let's go on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Oh, unhinged liberal teacher.
Speaking of schools.
Yes, speaking of schools, at least these ones, are they having sex with the kids, or is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, and speaking of Connecticut, so this story went viral yesterday. A teacher in Connecticut was not happy that Trump won the election, so this is how she responded in a video that I think they said she thought she was sending it to a Snapchat group, but it ended up going viral.
Do you know what grade does she teach? Is this a public school?
K through 12.
K through 12, and it's a public school?
Yeah, Cheshire, Connecticut.
So your tax dollars are paying to employ this person?
Yes,
cool.
Correct.
Oh, she's flying an airplane. Oh, you guys can't hear that.
And people of color and poor people and gay people and all the people that I care about aren't going to be safe in America. Neither the fuck are you guys. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the fuck you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please please don't test your gangster on me, because
Test your gangster.
you will end on a stretcher, gone forever.
Waking in my
So serious. Nobody fucking talk to me unless you want to swing. If you want to fight, text me, call me, whatever. Anybody else, stay the fuck out of my face. And if you voted for Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and I can handle you how I see fit. Please just come forward. We fucking know. Just tell me. Or leave. Please. The door.
It's amazing
for
this public
somebody like that's
figure-
teaching kids that speak that type of vocabulary.
What was her excuse as to how that got sent? Because the people that she's talking to is clearly the world. So what did she say? I sent that
She
to
said
friends?
she was trying to send it to a Snapchat group or something of friends. Yeah.
Amazing she had time in her busy schedule of
And
probably
friends.
molesting her students to
Well,
make that
I think
video.
it was probably a cover, and the parents were pissed about it. And at first, they only put her on administrative leave, but then there's enough blowback for her to actually have to resign. And she didn't get fired; she had the choice to resign. So,
Do you have any videos of people bringing up white, uneducated women by any chance? If not, I'd like to bring up that point right now. Do you have any videos?
I
of that?
don't know.
I
Rob,
have- go ahead.
She's quite clearly one of the degrees of
Yes,
that.
that's
that,
uneducated.
I mean, that's what, and those are the people that should be deciding what happens with America, not the people lacking a college diploma.
My wife is now a Trump voter. She never was, but this was the first time that she voted. She voted. Unfortunately, Palm Beach County still went blue, which I don't understand. But okay, fine.
I can tell you why.
But she actually took offense, and she was like, it really bothers me that they're saying that because I voted for Donald Trump, I'm an uneducated white woman.
yeah.
And I wondered if I said the same thing, I get on here and I look at the camera and I go, hey, if you're a black woman that voted for Barack Obama, you're an uneducated black. How quickly do I get canceled for making that same statement?
Yeah, it'd be quite different. So, I mean, they not only said that, they said the narratives that uneducated white women voted for Trump, racist Hispanics voted for Trump, and misogynist black men voted for Trump.
So if you
That's a
flip-
powerful coalition right there.
But then if I'm a white guy, which I am, I identify as it, I'm a male.
Enemy number one.
I am. I'm Hitler and Satan and all those things. But if I make that same statement, it's considered racist. If I were to say the black women that voted for Barack Obama, or even black women that were supporting Kamala Harris, are uneducated, I am a hateful, racist bigot. But then that bald weirdo, Joy Reid, can get on TV and say white women who voted for Trump are uneducated, and the president can even call them garbage. That's supposed to be totally normalized, but it's racist and wrong when I do it. They are saviors of democracy when they do it.
Well,
Yeah,
you've seen the
because
map.
they claim only white people could be racist, but Joy Reid's the most racist person on TV.
They bring up race all the time.
Yeah.
When do I ever bring up
Yeah.
race? Maybe once in a while when I'm in traffic and I'm angry, I'm going, Asians can't drive. Yeah, I'll say it. Some of them have a hard time.
Yep.
So do women. There's also men that suck at driving. So the only time that race ever plays a factor in my life is when I'm driving and someone cuts me off and I go, is that an Asian woman? I'm going to go see. But they always bring up race. They always harp on race. They always make it about race. But when you make every single thing racist, does that not then make nothing racist?
Yeah, it waters
because
it down.
everything that's going on is in effect racist.
Exactly. And, this is two things. So one of them is that they've gotten to the point where they feel like they could say whatever they want because they got so used to being this, like, hysterical and crazy, and, like, people that are liberals feel
Which
that
is
way.
their right. Fine. Get on there and say that. That's okay. I have no problem with you saying that.
That's what this woman did, though.
I have a problem with the double standard that, okay, you have the right to say it, and I applaud that. Freedom of speech, fine.
Right.
You want to get in front of a camera and sound like a retard, then
No, but-
go
well,
ahead. I do it twice a week right on here. I got no problem doing it.
You've
But
seen,
let that double standard not exist. It should not be, I can say this, I can do this, I can project this on you, but when you say it back, well, you got to be deplatformed, you got to be demonetized.
Right.
That guy shouldn't have the right to say that, but we have the right to say
Well,
that.
you all saw the tweet from Ali Samarco, who is DC 27, pragmatic Democrat, former Republican, not aspiring to be humble, tweeted out, and I'm quoting, white men without college degrees are going to ruin this country. Fill in the blank of white men for any other race, religion, ethnicity, creed, sexual orientation. The Jews without whatever are going to ruin this country. Blacks are going to ruin this country. You cancellation. I mean, whether or not you think you should, you would. But you say white men, and it's acceptable because apparently the only group that you can actively, vocally discriminate against are white Christian straight men.
Yeah, what
You've
the
seen
hell
map,
is that all
you've seen
about?
the map breakdown of what it would look like if only women with college degrees voted, and like the entire country is blue. And it's like that's the strongest case for not letting women be involved in higher education.
Say how about
But
only
whatever.
people married with kids voted? I bet the whole thing would be red.
Well, or people who served in the military. Only military get to vote.
Yeah.
The issue is, the joking about the women issue is one thing, but it does show what a cesspool of indoctrination universities are. Like, yeah, it's good. That doesn't show that what should be happening. That shows that that's what is happening. Universities are
And most
centers for
universities
indoctrination.
are majority women now, where more women go to college than men.
Yeah, it's almost 60-40.
It's like 60-40 at this point. So women have the advantage, and somehow that still didn't work out in their favor.
I'm one of those people that graduated from a liberal arts college. It was the Richard Stockton University of New Jersey in a Democratic state. I came out and I was like, I love everybody. I want everybody to have health care. Yeah, that's right, Obama. Let's do it. And here I am 20 years later going, idiot. Stupid. Look at what you did. Now you got to try and undo the damage that you did because of the indoctrination that happened, not just because of the college, but it's also because of the environment and because of the media. You got to think, when you're living in an echo chamber, like a lot of liberals that go to college are, and then what do? They only consume more echo chamber by watching it on TV. And then guess who they surround themselves in their communities? More people that facilitate that echo chamber, and that's how you become a crazed liberal who voted for Barack Obama twice, John Kerry once, abstained from Hillary Clinton in 2016, voted for Biden in 2020, and then cast for the very first time in my adult life a Republican vote for president with Donald Trump in 2024.
Congratulations. And they're having mental breakdowns because they're part of the society or generation that didn't know how to lose, that they weren't allowed to lose as kids. And
Well, because everyone's a winner.
right.
Well,
But you're a loser now.
Go show the losers.
Yeah, all right, so next clip. This is her trying to spin the narrative on Fox News and explain herself.
This is her that we're looking at?
Yes. Local connected.
Well, she looks a little different in composure now.
This is funny.
For Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and then I can handle you how I see fit. Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the blank you voted for. You're not in the clear. Please, please don't test your gangster on me because you will end on a stretcher gone forever. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so that
it sounds like a threat.
It sounds very extreme. And again, I was in a moment of high emotions and I shouldn't have ever posted the video. But what the message I was trying to get across, and it came off very wrong, was, if this is going to give people the almost permission in their minds to enact violence against women or anybody, I wanted to basically just say, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I mean, it's my life's dream to be a teacher. I consider those kids my kids because
take your kids away, baby. That's
and they fill that for me, and it's so fulfilling. It's so rewarding, and I know that what people see right now, I don't look like that person, but I
you look
truly
unstable.
would
That's
do
what I see.
anything to help any child and any family in need.
Just because you won doesn't mean we don't
here's the
remember who the you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please,
the problem
please
is I
don't
feel
test
bad
your
for her.
gangster on me because
I the thing is, you see her, I feel bad for her. I look in her eyes and I do see someone who is taking some sort of SSRI antidepressant or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel bad for her, but Roseanne Barr had her life ruined over a stupid tweet joke, and this lady's out there threatening violence, and in her own mind, she's justified her own threats of violence because she thinks that she's under some sort of existential threat just for existing as a woman because she's been brainwashed, and she's teaching kids.
Not only did they... Oh, and Humberto, you had something to say. I want to go to you. But not only did they take away or discredit Roseanne, they took away the show that she wrote, created, starred in. That was imagine how difficult it is. Because in the 80s, when you were a comedian, the big thing everybody wanted, you got in a comedy because you wanted a TV deal. Things have now switched. It's you get in a comedy because you want to have a successful podcast and hope the podcast feeds the comedy.
Yeah.
But she created that show. She was the head writer of that show. She was the executive producer of that show. And then they remove her from the show for a tweet that that while it was probably in poor taste, it could be taken out of context. She didn't mean it in a racial sense, I don't believe. The woman actually looked like the thing from the Planet of the Apes. They had the same facial structure, and maybe I'm racist, and I'm sorry if I am, but they looked exactly alike. So I looked at that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see how she can make that leap. Would I tweet that? Probably not. Now, do I say it on a podcast? Like a fucking idiot, I did it.
No, but Rob, you saw her follow-up tweet, which says, "I thought the bitch was Jewish." First of all, so she, and I don't want to throw
double down.
I don't want to throw my mother under the bus, but my mother, we always made the joke that my mom kind of looked like, when she had her hair doing that way, she looked like Cornelius from Planet of the Apes. And I was like, I won't get accused of racism because my mom's an old Jewish lady. But when Roseanne tweeted that, I was like, yeah, I didn't know the woman was black either. I also thought she was Jewish and made no racial connection to the tweet. But the bottom line, double standard, we all know of it. Humberto, what were you going to say?
What I'm gonna say, like, I feel bad for this woman because she is a victim. She's a victim of cultural Marxism. She's part of a death cult. That's what this is. It's a death cult. If she was well-adjusted and had a loving husband and kids, and because the thing is, after World War I, World War II, when we moved women to factories, all right, because you know, if you read Marx, you know, the abolition of the nuclear family is what it was one of the main aims of communism, all right? So this woman is talking against her interest, all right, in a very violent way. And you're not gonna fool me. Like, this woman is just a symptom of what we're doing. These people have they have an enemy, and they declared who their enemy is, all right? And I'm saying this as a Latino guy. Maybe if you see me at 7-Eleven, you know, like I'm pretty white passing, I guess. But
until you start talking.
What? Until I start talking, all right? But this is the war that fired the flames of why Donald Trump is president. Like, if you saw the Kamala campaign, they had to do the sad thing about what was it? White dudes for Kamala.
Yeah.
All right. So they've been shitting on white men for what, 40 years, 30 years?
30 years,
you know?
easy.
Yeah.
And it's part of communism.
About my lifetime.
That's what they
Great.
want to do. Like, if you see the Russian Revolution, you know, if you see what happened in World War II, if you see, like, they're out for them. I'm so glad I'm not part of them. But the rhetoric, you're listening every single day, like, they're evil, they're ignorant.
Well, they've been conditioned to feel they can say whatever they want.
So I can get why she's offering, like, literally a teacher. Come on, who's gonna square up with a teacher?
Well, I'll tell you where
they think they can say whatever they want, though.
Each other. Go ahead.
Like, that side has been conditioned to think they can say whatever they want because they haven't gotten in trouble for it over the last 4 years. So she's like took a step farther by threatening people's lives. So she crossed the line, thinking that she could get away with saying whatever she wants to say.
But Humberto brought up, did you say the word brainwash?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a part of this where I agree with you. I feel bad for this woman. She has clearly been brainwashed into thinking Donald Trump is evil. He's Hitler. He's going to take away your uterus. He's going to throw Mexicans into cages. They believe the narrative. I was one of those people that believe the narrative. I'm also not a teacher. So there's a portion of this, while I feel bad about what she's been through and what has happened to her brain, I don't believe that if you're in that type of mental state, you should be around children. There's a reason why I'm not a teacher. Because the second a kid would act up, I'd go, what the fuck is wrong with you? That is how I would act. So there's got to be a temperament.
It's way deeper than that. And brainwashing is actually, you know, like making it less of a problem. This is going on since the Cold War. All right. All the efforts that the KGB and Russia, I mean, the USSR, they put in, 15% of their budget was asserted for espionage and all the cool things. The rest of the stuff was propaganda, and this is called demoralization, all right? It's destroying a society from the inside, all right? You were victim to it. Brandon was victim to it. Like, all my family is right-wing since the beginning of time, all right? So, like, I always saw through this thing.
Well, you are a German-descended person from South America, so they're very far right-wing at one point.
But I'm saying right here that we need to address this problem, all right? Because this is gonna get violent eventually. Because if she wasn't a teacher, like a woman teacher saying this, if this was a guy that actually had access to guns, and she gets invited to Fox News, what are we talking about? What do you say about Roseanne Barr? Like, it destroyed her career, and she gets invited to keep on talking on live of national TV. Like the thing is so unfair for both sides. Like, we can't keep on treating people like this.
Well, because one side destabilizes and one side is strengthening the society. And like the way you're talking about, their biggest schools to demoralize the society. The side that they don't like is the side that strengthens the society, and the side that's crazy destabilizes it.
Look at who this person is, though. Like, look at this woman we are talking about. It is a woman. She is not particularly strong or well built. She is small. Like, she's talking, oh, step to me, you're leaving on a stretcher. Like hell I am.
Right.
Do you think she even knows how to fire a gun? I mean, does she?
But she's not even talking about firing guns. She's like, oh yeah, bare knuckle brawl, I'll put you on a stretcher.
But she started the whole thing.
Yeah.
The violence, that they can use their position to promote violence.
Good
Exactly.
point.
So this tiny little woman who is a public school teacher could not hurt any adult male Trump supporter, even if she tried hard. If she came at you with a knife, you still have a better chance of ending her
Maybe
than she
the
does of
gays
you.
for Trump.
Maybe.
Some of those are true.
But you know who she does have the ability to abuse and put her power over and
Children.
decimate?
Cats.
Her children.
Oh, darn it.
The children in her classroom. Because there is a certain phenomenon with women like that, women like Gwen Walls, Tampon Tim's wife,
Turn the page.
who you can tell within 30 seconds of looking at them, this is a person who is biologically inclined to only have authority over children. And there are people like this who go into education specifically for, hey, I'm weak and ineffectual in every other context. Let me lord my power over children so I feel like I'm dominant.
And you heard what she said. She said it there. She said, I think of them as my own.
They're my own kids. That's the problem. You can take responsibility for your kids as a teacher. You can love them.
You know,
They're
it's
not
funny,
yours.
I once had an Ontario teacher on my channel who is kind of an activist female as well, and she's saying they're not your children because I get to talk about things with my children that you as a teacher do not ever get to talk about with my children. Politics would be one, but sex issues would be another. She's crazy. The bottom line is I feel bad for her. I'm inclined to forgive her, but I'm also inclined to say, I'm sorry, you're unable to do what you want to do because of look, if you have PTSD, you might not want to be a cop. And if you get traumatized, you might have to say, okay, I'm not going to be fit for this function anymore. I physically can't hold a gun without shaking. She's clearly unfit to do what she's doing. I feel bad for her. She's going to suffer some serious consequences. Yeah. Find another more
My
appropriate
dream
job.
is to be a teacher.
Thought-
all dreams got to end sometimes.
You thought that was crazy. Listen to this guy. This is the day after Trump won.
Reaction to the presidential election, specifically to one of his students wearing a Trump hat the day after the election.
Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez is live with that story now. Christina?
Yeah, and it's interesting because even the parents who reached out to us about this were telling me that this is a very popular teacher, has been here for a long time. As far as anyone knows, has never had an issue like this until students in a class got this in their cell phones. Listen.
I'm pissed. People voted for freaking rapists and pissed off.
Brainwash.
It's the voice of a Chino High teacher reacting to a student walking into his class wearing a Trump hat the day after the election.
Turn it off and go back to your freaking seat now. Go. Take the. Can you send security up? That boy who has a Trump hat on, and I'm not going to tolerate it today.
Unfortunately, this video is real.
The president of the School Board of Education, which Chino High is part of, says they are looking into this.
But
send security up because he's wearing a hat.
Brandon, this is not funny. Like, this is not funny at all. This is by design. We're talking about in the 1940s, they broke up the teachers' union because it was infiltrated by communists. You read Antonio Gramsci.
It has again.
Because after the Russians, the Russian communists killed more people than anyone else during World War II. Let's have that on the record. They killed more people than anyone else. Like a rough estimate is 66 million people. So when you're sitting at the table in Europe and you said you were a communist, it wasn't cool to be a communist.
It's worse to be than being a Nazi.
So this Gramsci guy goes like, okay, we won't be able to do it on the open. We're gonna infiltrate education, and all these teachers are infiltrated, and they are poisoning our youth. All right,
that's what we have to abolish.
And that's what pisses me off, that nobody in the Trump administration is talking about the importance of education. We have a giga chat that is going to fix health. They're going to fix the government spending.
Well, Trump has it as one of the plans to dismantle the Department of Education.
We need to
I love though that it actually occurred at Chino University, Chino High School.
We need to dismantle the unions. We need to defund all federal funding for universities.
100%.
You see the terrorists that came out during the Palestine-Israel thing. You had people burning the American flags on campus. All right, what are we talking about? Those are training grounds for domestic terrorists.
We won't put up with that anymore, though. He's not going to put up with that. He said he's going to tax fine the college endowments, which is the nucleus of college power. Like their endowments worth like 75% of their income. So he's going to attack that. He's going to attack the Department of Education, like, $300 billion a year.
It's so sad that things have to get out of hand. You know, like I respect everyone's beliefs, everyone's race, and everything. Like, but to have Jewish students be scared to go to class, out of like physical violence and people burning things down, that is not acceptable in America.
Well,
not acceptable.
Well, maybe if Israel wasn't committing a genocide, I'm just kidding.
But it's
that's the argument. And most of these people don't know what Gaza is, the history behind Palestine.
Even if it is, like, it's not the fault of the Jewish student that wants to go to his biology.
Well, I there's a part of me that says like this is you reap what you sow. When the Jewish students were complaining about these violent acts and protests and harassment when it was there, but yet a lot of organizations were tolerating it back in the Summer of Love 2020 as though that monster could never turn on them. So there's a little bit of reaping what you sow involved in that. But you're 100% right. I mean, it's indoctrination. It was Solzhenitsyn or the guy who gave the speech. Yuri Bezmenov. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, so everybody knows about the tactic now. And you're right. Feel bad for the guy. But it's kind of freaking funny that this teacher is so scared of a hat he's calling security because he can't stand politically different views in his classroom. That guy it's unfortunate. He's broken and he cannot
feel
be in
bad
a
for the
position to
victims of
teach.
brainwashing for sure. I'm all on board with
demoralization.
But the thing is,
using brainwashing because it's demoralization.
You only feel bad for victims as long as they stay victims. When they become victimizers, they no longer deserve your sympathy and now need to be held accountable.
This is true.
You feel bad for someone who's molested as a child, but if they grow up to be a child molester, that sympathy ends and now it is time for consequences. Same thing with these people. Not your fault you were brainwashed. You chose to act out and threaten people and cause problems. I don't have sympathy for you anymore. This is now an issue with you.
On the positive side, though, teachers think that they could tell their students what to think and that's just going to happen. But I think the more natural response for a child is to rebel against what adults are telling them to do. It's at least 50-50 to say the least, but I think more than not will go against what's being strongly pushed on them. And it seems like that's happening. Like there's more and more young kids who are in favor of Trump, who are rejecting all this woke stuff, especially in colleges.
No, I mean, up in Canada, when now I'm going to forget the name of the kid, but you get kicked out of school for saying there are only two sexes.
Yeah.
And other girls are like, what? I mean, this is how you get the pendulum swinging back.
Right.
And yeah, it has to get bad enough. And it finally looks like it got bad enough because it wasn't bad enough in 2020 when people didn't see what didn't get stolen by way of an election. And it got bad enough now when you have an open border, a fentanyl crisis, people telling you that there's no advantage to having boys in girls sports. Yeah, it's bad enough. And the pendulum swinging back, and we're seeing it in real time. There's going to be more and more meltdowns like this.
And I'm so glad. I think the dignity of being born a human being is enough for everyone, regardless of the race, color, gender, whatever, to be treated with respect and not be harassed by teachers, by the police, by the our justice system. Like, this is crazy talk in a free country. It's crazy talk.
Yeah, so I think we're heading to a much better place with this because, like you said, the pendulum's swinging. It got bad enough to the point where it has to get a little bit painful. You know, change comes when being the same gets too painful. So,
well said. And by the way, your arm's looking massive. Sorry, that was a weird thing, but I'm looking over as he's making his point. I'm
Thank you.
Wait,
Jesus
hold on.
Christ,
Yeah,
is
go.
all you do bicep curls? Girls get the girls.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
Guys
Your
get the
arms
guys.
are almost as veiny as Vinny's now. I'm noticing. Like,
I just don't wear short sleeve shirts
Well
like
done.
the AC's all.
Sorry,
out
this
of control
turned
here.
into weird. Let's
Bicep
admire how
hour.
muscular
Hey, everybody,
Brandon
let's
is.
look at his arms.
Let's get to something more normal.
Ladies,
as we switch
you
topics.
can find me on social media.
What do you call them? Baddies.
Broads.
Oh, okay, frauds. All right.
Well, I hear that teacher is looking for a nice man to guide her through life.
Would you? Hate? Like a hate effing?
I don't know.
Well, let's talk
That
about a
would hardly
different
be the
type
first
of
time.
probing.
Close to home.
A different type of probing. We'll go to aliens. Connor,
I
do
hope
we
your
really
mom
want to
doesn't
believe?
see this.
It's
I know.
really weird because, Roswell happened in the 60s, and it's been this forever, this long-held secret, do aliens exist? And then there's all this congressional testimony where it seems like people are admitting aliens exist, and everybody's like, yeah, I know, but I really want to see what Kim Kardashian's wearing today. Like, people just don't even care. Connor,
Yeah, so let's unpack this interesting little subject here. I remember where I was in 2020 when the first big confirmation came out. I was working at a small little political podcast based in Boynton Beach. We were all working from home. We hadn't been in the office in like 6 months because of COVID. I was sitting at my dining room table on my computer recording a podcast, and I happened to see a little thing flash up about how the United States Congress was having a hearing about craft of non-terrestrial origin. And I just happened to remark on the podcast, oh, and look, as another thing that happened today, they also said UAPs are real. And then we went on with our conversation, and that did not come up again. My dad was in the kitchen on the other side of the table, and he was like, wait, did you just say aliens? Like, the Congress said aliens are out there? And it's like, yeah, but we all went on with our day, because it was just like such a throwaway thing. Oh, we've recorded craft that aren't of earthly origin, and in other news, the 2020 election and COVID felt like a much bigger issue at the time. But they've kept doing this, where they keep having these hearings and these document disclosures and these video releases and everything showing, yeah, they're recording crafts and all this stuff, and there's whistleblowers about we have technology and we're reverse engineering it, and yet nothing keeps happening. And I know, Rob, you're kind of our alien enthusiast out of all of us. Aliens aren't even my particular point of interest. But
yeah, you like Bigfoot.
Yeah, cryptozoology is more my thing. Cryptozoology and ancient civilizations, but you're more well-versed on the alien thing. But I want to talk about where this is coming from, why this happened to catch my attention today. So let's go to VT News AI for this story. This
nice. Show the graphic, Jeremy.
Show the graphic. There we go.
Does the AI stand for artificial intelligence?
Alien intelligence. No. Yeah, this headline came yesterday. Pentagon reports no evidence of aliens in UFO report. So to read from this article, the Pentagon's latest report on unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, covered 557 cases from May 2023 to June 2024. And has revealed an increase in reported sightings, but no evidence of extraterrestrial origins. Among these cases, the report highlights incidents involving misidentified balloons, birds, and drones, with 21 sightings classified as, quote, true anomalies that merit further investigation. So first of all, 757 reports in like less than a year is a lot. And I feel, okay, birds, drones, whatever, like, are people seeing that many birds and drones and not knowing what these things are? That's a little alarming there. Despite heightened public interest and calls for transparency from lawmakers, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office confirmed that, quote, AARO has discovered no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. And this is kind of what was interesting about this report, because it came out the day before Congress was having its latest hearing. This was on Wednesday. U.S. congressional hearing on UAPs entitled, quote, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth, featured testimony from a retired Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy, former Department of Defense official Luis Elizondo, former NASA Administrator Michael Gold, and independent journalist Michael Schellenberger. We actually had Luis Elizondo on the PBD podcast.
Correct.
Was it, like a couple months ago?
Yes, and
Fed.
Yeah, there was mixed feelings about Lou Elizondo, and the mixed feeling was that Lou Elizondo didn't think he was a Fed, but literally every other person in the building said,
yes.
Fed.
He did an interview right after us, and he word by word repeated the same script.
This is why I wanted to bring it up, because I know our feelings about it. I am very skeptical of Elizondo as well. Schellenberger's a little bit different, but honestly within the same thing. These are all guys who have put out whistleblower reports and statements about things they heard from other people. So are they being manipulated? Are they the slow drip to release this information?
So I wonder, are you I wonder if you're heading in the same direction that like my mind is going. Like I don't want to cut off your point, but my mind is going to the place where the Pentagon might be a little flustered right now with what's going on. So is it a coincidence they're doing a big alien dump right now? Because Warner von Braun said at one time that their last chess move when they're really desperate is going to be the fake alien attack. So I don't know. Like
that's actually pretty much in line with where I was going.
Oh,
well, no, I mean that's
Great job,
that's how the discussion works.
Ruin everything.
You always ruin everything.
No, because Brandon is enhancing the point that I'm
right,
suggesting is. With all the disclosure of things that they're trying to talk about, the Epstein client list will release, and that'll be a big thing. The JFK files might be a big thing. These are all things Trump has promised to declassify. He notably has never really talked about, alien files, but for the last couple years, we've been drip-fed pieces of information in the most boring, slow, monotonous way possible, which is live-stream congressional hearings on C-SPAN, where people come up and like, yes, I can't confirm outside of a closed session, but I do want to indicate that, I've perhaps heard from another person who allegedly worked on a thing to reverse engineer non-human biologics recovered from craft. It's like, could you come up with a more interesting way to say you found aliens?
No, what it was basically thing is it was
yeah.
something that flew into a bird, and so there were biologics on it. It just was non-human.
Exactly. But Nancy Mace was overseeing this last one, which made it a little bit more interesting. I have a few clips of
Also
that
more
as well.
appeasing to the eye.
Yeah. It was Nancy Mace and Anna Paulina Luna, I think, who were doing a lot of the conversations.
My favorite.
Well, I'm sorry. Can you do that again for the camera? Do that for the camera. That was so funny.
No, I'm a respectful man.
Never mind.
Can we go to my next clip,
Brandon?
Because here's Elizondo, and there we go. Let's see what he had to say.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies, I would not be able to discuss.
Okay. Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am. I signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse? Okay, we already answered that question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't trust
in your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic. Okay, Mr. Schellenberger, I'm going to say it again.
All right, so there we go. That's how all these hearings play out, of people who are questionably federal operatives describing aliens in the most boring terms imaginable. But Nancy Mace did raise a very valid point. If we can skip ahead, I have a tweet from her right here. If it doesn't exist, why are we spending taxpayer dollars on something that isn't real? And if it does exist, why is it being deliberately hidden from the public? And I feel like this is the important question, because there is so much money being poured into these things that we don't know about.
Is there like an issue about some people having good investigative committees, and some people being slapped on the loser investigative committees?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because fine, you're going to have a lot of committees. I agree with Nancy Mace here. Like, okay, it either exists or it doesn't. But these hearings where somebody comes up and says, "Here's a bunch of information, but I can't go further behind closed doors." Oh, I'm such an important figure that I can tell you what I can tell you publicly. But she's right. But this might be one of those crappy committees, and Nancy Mace is like, get me off this crappy committee.
Why have all these people been made to sign documents about what they can and can't say publicly if there's nothing to cover up? And I don't even say that as someone who wholeheartedly believes in aliens. I'm just very curious about the government transparency angle. Will the Department of Government Efficiency be able to tackle the massive federal budget spending apparently on alien-related stuff? I don't know, but I'm curious.
I would bet that all of it, if not 99% of it, deals with military secrets and not aliens. Yeah. And so they've recovered stuff from maybe China, Russia that defies our technologies, and they don't want to disclose it, or it's their own stuff and they don't want to disclose it, so they're cloaking it as alien material.
Well, Viva, so you ever seen a documentary called The Lost Generation?
No.
The Lost Century? So will blow your mind. Like, I told everybody here to watch it. Basically, we were using 100-year-old technology. Like 100 years ago, people found out how to create electric cars that ran from like basically the ionosphere and like the particles in the atmosphere. So there's been like 20 people over the last 100 years that created like different methods for infinite energy, and they all died mysteriously. So 1951, there's this thing called the Government Invention Secrecy Act. So there's over 6,000 patents that are classified because they'd be considered economically destabilizing because of how much things they would displace in terms of like oil and medicine and whatnot. So I think it's stuff like that they're working on. Like when we see these UFOs and whatnot, it's like things called like 0-point energy, where you could have like it defies the laws of physics. We have no understanding of physics because they classify this stuff because it'd be too crazy to our economy.
And Connor, to add to his point, to add some color to this, like I'm the first non-pilot on my lineage. Like my great-grandfather was a pilot, my grandfather was a pilot, my dad is a pilot, and my brother is a pilot. I cannot have lunch, dinner, or whatever outside because anything that is moving on the sky, they will turn around and identify it. They'll be like, oh, that's a 747. Oh, that's this plane, the other plane. So no, I'm getting to some point. So what I'm saying that like a highly trained jet pilot, like if my dad goes, he's a great dude, but he's a commercial plane guy. He likes riding bikes, his family, if a highly trained, highly focused, like jet pilot, from these agencies cannot identify something that is moving on the sky, I will pay attention to it. And this lady, Mace, she's wonderful. I love her. She's onto something. It's either exists or it doesn't. And I think in a general sense, and bring to your point, like we need to have like some sort of, constitutional right to see what we can know and we cannot know. Because like it's so arbitrary now. It comes to everything. It comes to aliens. It comes to shootings. It comes to technology. It comes to everything. Like who decides what we can know and what we can't know?
What you just said brings us perfectly into my
You're welcome.
Closing wisdom here. If we can throw up my final quote on the subject before we go to our points here. Anything can be a UFO if you're bad at identifying flying objects.
There's a metaphor in there to life in general.
Yeah. Much to think about here.
Let me blow everybody's mind. Do you all know what percentage of the water on Earth came from meteorites, came from outer space?
Ooh.
The majority. No. So like it's either 50% or the majority. No. So now, as far as it goes for alien life, this is going to blow everybody's mind. It objectively exists. Tardigrades can live for hundreds of years frozen in ice. Life on Earth came from outer space. In the fact that, this is my hypothesis, but a lot of people hold it, life comes from water, and the majority of water on Earth came from ice on meteorites. So let that sink in. Intelligent life, maybe not. Maybe they're intelligent in avoiding us. This, I think, is all an attempt either to cloak or distract from military secrets that they don't want the public knowing. These things crash, and what better way to pique people's interest than by calling it UFOs when it's actually just government technology.
Kind of like a sperm meeting an egg, meteors hitting the Earth and then creating life. That's weird.
It's well, when I first discovered that fact, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah,
icy meteorites crashing, and that's where there was some water on Earth where it came from, outer space to begin with. But that'll blow your mind.
And even as a proponent of intelligent design for life on Earth, like it fascinating possibility of single-celled organisms, bacteria, like all these other things that exist out in space could crash land on Earth in an asteroid. I'm not inclined to believe there's sentient civilizations of high-functioning beings that can build instant teleportation and 0-point energy technology and travel to Earth just to look at us from very far away and do nothing else. If they could get here, they would have taken over us by now. I more ascribe to the Tucker Carlson interpretation of things, which is any alien phenomenon we've encountered is stuff that's always been here. It's dimensional, not just outer space. But I just read off that report. They have these encounters where, 757 of them recorded, about 24 of them genuine anomalies. Okay, 24 is a lot in a year. Like, so the phenomenon is happening. There has to be an explanation for it. And either it's nothing, in which case we're wasting money on it, or it's something and we deserve to know what it is. And that's my concluding point here. But aliens, I feel like I'm going nuts.
Defense contractors.
Speaking of aliens,
be a good transition now to I don't know what that graphic is. Can we show that graphic? It's Sylvester Stallone
convention at Mar-A-Lago, and Trump is riding an oversized eagle.
Now that is an identifiable flying object.
I need you to break down that thumbnail. Go ahead, Humberto.
I made it myself. Thank you. I don't know. It's just like I always like to end on a feel-good story. We had the biggest stud convention at a few miles from here. We've been in that room, Rob, at Mar-a-Lago. We have Sly, we had Javier Milei and President Donald Trump in the same room. Like, I think the whole T count of this country just went up by 100%.
Yeah, see, when we were there, it was Hulk Hogan, it was Frank Stallone, and it was Chuck Zito, the bodyguard for the Hells Angels. So we didn't really get like the who's who. We got the who's who of who gives a fuck. Like, nobody really. It was like, all right, these are cool people. I was excited because I'm a nerd, but everybody else was like, yeah, it's Frank.
It's more the who was.
And I was there the day after for James O'Keefe's event, and I ran into Tito Ortiz and got a selfie with Tito.
There you go. See, all right, so this one was some real heavyweights.
Some real heavyweights. Like, every time I walk into that room, I feel like a schoolgirl compared to like the greatness that you have in the room all the time. Well, anyhow, so we saw this week. You know, if we go to the first video, I mean the first picture. This is one of my favorite pictures in the internet right now. This is absolutely beautiful. You have Elon, you have Javier Milei, and Donald Trump in the same picture. I already printed it, and it's going to be framed in my desk because this gives me hope for the future. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to skip right into the first video. I mean, the first article. This is really funny. This came out this week. Harris Hollywood Pulse radio silent after a week after Trump's victory. They cannot afford to lose fans, expert says. So that is
what an expert.
That is really funny. I don't know if you noticed, everyone was super noisy up to the election. You had you even had
Cardi B. You had all of the celebs.
All the celebrities.
Mark Hamill was probably one of the worst offenders, and he has since deleted all of that because, you know, God forbid his reputation for being in
up.
Star
He deleted
Wars.
that.
He deleted quite a bit of it.
I'm going to go and needle the living hell out of him. Holy cow.
God forbid the legacy of, you know, the Star Wars movies be tarnished now more so than it was by everything that's been made in Star Wars.
It was beyond sycophant. I mean, this was like outright idolatry among it was disgusting and gross.
He was slobbing on something the way Luke Skywalker was slobbing on that weird green milk in that most recent
humiliation rituals.
Despicable.
Well, anyhow, so everyone's been really quiet, you know. But they met together, and we're gonna go to the first video. That we're probably just gonna show a little bit of it because it's Javier Milei speaking at Mar-a-Lago. Jake, if you can help me, that's Javier Milei. His command of English is not very good, so he's just gonna say hi, and we're gonna move to the next. That is Trump complimenting. Is it working? All right.
Good night, everybody. I'm very grateful for being here. I am feeling blessing. I will do my speech in Spanish, but I have a very big, very good interpreter. And then, sorry, but I will speak in Spanish.
Fuego.
All right, afuera Milei. I love him.
And it's kind of crazy because you see people try to, you know, say like, oh, he sounds very unintelligent. And the second he's in Spanish, he's a genius.
He's a beast.
Because the language barrier would be the only thing there. Like he's a brilliant guy. Which is awesome.
I told this story 1,000 times. The first time I met Javier Milei was before he was a congressperson. We had a business meeting, like you know, economics and stuff. Like a bunch of guys. Friedman was there and whatever. He came in to talk. And I see this guy walking in with his hair all crazy, his suit like he's tied to the side. I was like, who is this guy? What is he doing here? And he gave the most brilliant talk on the economy. And I go like, I like this guy. And that's when I got his phone number. And then he became, then I was running a YouTube show. So I was like, hey, why don't you come on my show? He was like, okay, but it's going to be $1,000. So I did pay the president of Argentina $1,000 to be on one of my shows. Anyhow, he became president. He no longer has the same phone number because I love to, you know, talk to him. But if you're listening, Javier, por favor, contéstame la llamada. And this is Donald Trump on Javier's Milei speech. This is really funny.
Javier, I'd like to congratulate you on the job you've done for Argentina. Your speech was beautiful, but the job you've done is incredible. Make Argentina great again. You know, MAGA. He's a MAGA person. And, you know, he's doing that. He's actually He's actually doing it. Just happens to work with EA. That one we don't have to worry about. It doesn't work so well with other countries, but you know what? I think your numbers are working also. You've done a fantastic job in a very short period of time. It's an honor to have you here.
Argentinians, this is a known fact, and I won't take any comments against this. Argentinians cannot learn English. There's a thing like Spaniards can do it, Colombians can do it, Chileans can do it very well. We speak the best English. But people from Argentina, they will never, ever learn English or
wait. I'm going
What?
to defend Ruby here.
What?
Ruby's English is very good.
She's American. She was born in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Debunked.
So
I just can't get over how young Donald Trump looks. 8 years later, he looks younger than he did in his first term. And you compare him to Jacinda Ardern, George Bush, Obama.
Yeah. Look at Biden. Biden. I mean, if they say that there's multiple Bidens, the reason why he looks so drastically different from before he took office, and then even before he took office as vice president 12 years before.
It's wild. Look at Victoria Nuland's aging. It's what happens when you get consumed by evil. But sorry,
I think winning has a lot to do with it. Like being
in
a winner,
life, just in general.
Just winning. Have you seen his wife? Have you seen his house?
You're gonna win so much, you're gonna get tired of winning.
Yeah. I love
and
that.
he's never gotten tired of winning.
And this was the surprise of the night. I brought the article that most Hollywood celebrities are keeping quiet. Not our boy Sly. He's my favorite now. It used to be Arnold, but he broke my heart, and he will never get a space back on my movie selection. What he did is just, what a traitor. Imagine running for a Republican seat as governor and then encouraging people to vote for Kamala Harris. That's why we shouldn't let immigrants, run in politics here in America. Yeah. They're all communists. They're like, I don't even, oh God, it gets me so mad. So we're going to go to Sylvester Stallone that gave a beautiful speech. I just cut this whole section of it so you guys can get the spirit, a little slice. I will encourage everyone to watch the whole thing. And Trump comments afterward, but there's a little slice of our boy Rambo just being a stud.
Rocky.
When I did Rocky, if you remember, the first image was a picture of Jesus, and it says Resurrection AC Club. I found a church that had been converted to a boxing ring. So the image pans down from Jesus onto Rocky being hit. And at that moment, he was a chosen person, and that's how I began the journey. Something was going to happen. This man was going to go through a metamorphosis and change lives, just like President Trump.
Wow.
We are in the presence of a really mythical character. I love mythology. And this individual does not exist on this planet. Nobody in the world could have pulled off what he pulled off, so I'm in awe.
He's another one who looks better the older he gets.
And I'll just say this, and I mean it. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
That's it. Mike, all right. Yeah. What do you guys think? Is he overdoing it?
No, he's not. Trump, if he does what he says he's going to do, he's going to be the best president of all time and literally saved the world from what the people who don't like the majority of the people in the world are trying to do. Like, think about where we were in 2015, like the state of things. Like, you talked about demoralization of a society. How demoralized were we in 2015? Like, Trump injected testosterone and rebellion into half the country. Like, the Republican Party was a disgrace. I've never been a Republican, but think about it was Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz at the forefront of the Republican Party in 2015. Yeah,
and Jeb Bush. What is this image?
That's Brendan Herrera. If I know who he is.
Can we put him in charge of the ATF?
That
was your point.
Part of my victory lap because I'm happy. I've been happy for the last 2 weeks. Our boy and fellow YouTuber Brandon Herrera, who's an absolute stud. He invented the AK-50. So come on, this guy, put him on screen. It's being mumbled as beheading the ATF. We can go to another favorite person that Brendan really likes, Laura Boebert, on the next video, talking how they would like to
go to the movies.
One of probably the biggest gun tuber as the head of the ATF. Just let it run.
This has been an amazing week. President Trump obviously pulling off a great victory, the victory we've all been waiting for, and then him announcing so many amazing members of his team. These cabinet picks are phenomenal, and I want to see even more. I want the three-letter responses all over D.C. to keep coming. MSNBC says that the three-letter response yesterday was WTF. Well, I was saying LFG. And, you know, we've been in a FAFO stage recently. You know, we were in the FA and now we're in the FO. And so people are about to find out exactly what we are going to do with this MAGA agenda. You know, I want to see a Thomas Massey as Secretary of Ag. I want to see a Brandon Herrera at the ATF. I want to see Bongino as the secretary there with the Secret Service. There are so many things that we can do. And look at the way that Charlie Kirk schools the woke indoctrinating teachers. Maybe he needs to be Secretary of the Department of Education. There's so much that we can do to get America back on track. And President Trump is already doing a great job with that, from Tulsi Gabbard to Bobby Kennedy, and of course my best friend Matt Gaetz as Attorney General.
What's unfortunate?
I didn't think about Charlie Kirk. You're doing a great show on this network as well.
Is going to be Agriculture Secretary. I believe that already went to Lee Zeldin.
No, that's EPA.
Okay, my mistake. But has he appointed agriculture yet?
No.
I don't
Okay,
believe so.
then Massey would be a very solid.
But just to
Bongino's probably not gonna get anything, but he would be great.
If he's tapped, he would. I don't think you say no to Trump. If
of course not. But I don't think those like Bongino and Charlie Kirk and Brandon Herrera are the kind of people who will be tapped. The people who have gotten it are all solid, but I feel like they're a different kind of person. And Herrera is great. He should be in the Texas Senate. If it weren't for AIPAC, he would have made it. But
I like that she jerks dudes off in movies.
Yeah, that's why I said let's go.
I'm sorry, I can't get. Every time I see her, I'm like, that's the girl that gave a hand job to a.
That's not what happened. He touched her boob for goodness sake, and the lights were off.
Sorry. All right, I know we had the moral police here, but what I want to say, I want to close with that video. That's exactly how I feel. Like I can't fit how happy I am in a 30-second bite.
No,
because there is so much to say about all this, and I think we are about to witness the best years of this country that we have ever seen. And as you said, we're going to win so much that we're going to get tired of winning. And not winning as a Republican or a Trump supporter. Like, I think all America, even people that hate him, even the teacher that was like, you know, complaining, even Canadian people, everyone that steps on this soil is going to win. And that's my take, and I will stand by it.
And the ones who stepped on that soil illegally are going to get bounced back to the, as he has said in the past, shithole countries that they came from. And I am very much looking forward to that. Secure the border, fix the economy, drill, baby, drill. America is back. It's weird. I was driving past because I live near Mar-a-Lago. And on Friday night, I have a Jeep, and I have the doors and the top off and everything. And I was driving. We went up to the beach, and we were leaving the beach, and we drove past Mar-a-Lago. And there were people in the parking lot down the street from Mar-a-Lago tailgating that Donald Trump won the election. They had the MAGA flags out, the American flags out. They were jamming. I started blaring my horn. We're all fist bumping. I went, America's great again. He was right. We're going to make America great again. And what you're seeing with these appointments is that he means business this time. Mm-hmm. It's not like the first time where he came in and he appointed the wrong people that worked towards his detriment. He's appointing the right people who are going to put the country back on the right track.
Yeah, they're going to drop the hammer.
Well, speaking of dropping the hammer, Jake has dropped the hammer on our fun time. We must end because it is the end of the show. Thank you for watching. Apologies that Vinny is not here. He will be back on Wednesday. If you have not already done so, then make sure you take those fingers that you got and you go over to the like and subscribe buttons. There they are. Jeremy, big. Yep. Oh, look. Fiva's even point. Everybody point. Bring it back up, Jeremy. Everybody's going to point to it. There we go. Come on. Here we go. There it is. Everybody's pointing.
Or nubs.
Do like and subscribe. And make sure you join us next Monday. Wednesday. We'll be back live at 6 p.m.
episode. Biggest ever.
100.
We're going to fill the couches to the brim.
Biggest episode ever. And by the way, make sure you grab your Angry Patriot merch. Go to vtnews.ai and make sure you check out the PBD podcast, which will be live Tuesday morning. Until then, thank you for joining us. My name's Rob Gargiulo. For all of the usual, unusual suspects, we appreciate you guys joining us today. We'll see you later. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Booyah.
Peace.